The Wandering Soul Planet. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351, Susan's Reincarnation. After the Red Ant Empire, under the command of the Imperial Marshal and Commander-in-Chief Suyi, divided its troops into 5 groups and destroyed the U-Monkey Ant Kingdom, they returned to the capital in triumph and returned 20 to 30 million U-Monkey Ant captives. They were assigned to various parts of the Red Ant Empire as slaves to perform hard labor. Suyi became famous for his outstanding achievements in destroying the 2 ant empires. He and all his officers, big and small, received supreme honors and were personally received and rewarded by Her Majesty Queen Susan. The national strength and military power of the Red Ant Empire also became unprecedentedly strong. The surrounding ant countries were terrified. The Xiongnu Ant Kingdom and the White Termite Kingdom both sent special envoys to submit surrender letters, willing to become vassal states of the Red Ant Empire. All major policies were subject to the dispatch of the Red Ant Empire, and only the orders of the Red Ant Empire were obeyed. Since they had already surrendered, there was no need to send troops to attack. The Red Ant Empire was also willing to accept the surrender. As long as these vassal states paid tribute every year and obeyed the dispatch when something important happened, there was no need to blame them. From then on, the entire Red Ant Empire was united in construction, and a long period of vigorous construction and various production and construction movements began across the country. Seeing the vibrant and prosperous scene of the Red Ant Empire in front of her, Queen Susan couldn't help but feel overjoyed. She soon developed the interest of touring and inspecting all parts of the country, so she took her beloved Air Force One, the Lei Meng Dragonfly. This was not the original one, but a newly domesticated Lei Meng Dragonfly, and started to travel. This morning, the sun was shining and the sky was clear. Susan led her royal guard of more than 100 red ants to take Air Force One to her hometown, the Susan city-state. When they passed a small forest with a small pond on the way, they stopped to rest. Unexpectedly, a female dragonfly from Lei Meng, which was smaller than Air Force One, suddenly flew out from the small pond and immediately attracted the attention of Air Force One. In fact, what we all don't know is that this big dragonfly from Air Force One is actually a male dragonfly from Lei Meng. When he saw the female dragonfly of the same kind, he was like a long drought meets a sweet rain and dry wood meets a raging fire. He was immediately excited and flew towards the female dragonfly without thinking twice, and had already thrown the rules and regulations of the training to the wind. At this time, Queen Susan was still on the back of Air Force One and had not had time to get off to rest. The guards left beside Susan were only a dozen ant soldiers. Everyone panicked and protected Queen Susan and held on to the wings of Air Force One tightly. However, Air Force One was so excited to see the beauty female dragonfly Lei Meng, and was very attentive to her. He used all his skills and performed all kinds of thrilling actions, rolling, diving, pulling up, rotating, swinging, hovering and jumping. This made Queen Susan, who was riding on its back, miserable. She felt like there were 25 mice in her heart, she was scratching her heart, nausea and vomiting, and she was in great pain. Fortunately, there were still a dozen loyal guards who were guarding her tightly, otherwise she would have fallen off this passionate and crazy Air Force One. It was too early to be happy at this time. The female dragonfly Lei Meng finally couldn't resist the powerful charm of Air Force One and soon surrendered. She was already amazed at the Prince Charming who appeared out of nowhere. Then, she saw this lovely Prince Charming actually showing her great courtesy and expressing his immense love for her. She was immediately excited, her IQ dropped to 0, and she couldn't tell the directions. In her confusion, she only knew to nod to Air Force One. Air Force One was overjoyed when he saw that his performance was not in vain. He immediately rushed forward to hug the beauty's head and kissed her fiercely, and strongly indicated that he was willing to fall in love with her. In this way, Air Force One's next actions became more intense and frequent, and the frequency of actions more than doubled. Queen Susan's guards finally couldn't hold back and fell off the back of Air Force one after another. Finally, even Queen Susan fell off and happened to fall into the small pond below. To humans, this is a small pond, but to ants, it is a huge lake with no end in sight. In this small pond, Susan fell into the water and was terrified, because she knew that ants could not swim. This was the end. She would be reincarnated again. She didn't know what kind of creature she would be reborn next time. Susan was both afraid and looking forward to it. After all, she felt that she had been the queen of ants for long enough. Just when Susan was floating on the water, Air Force One and the female dragonfly Lei Meng had completed their wedding night. Now Air Force One had left its one-night stand, and the female dragonfly Lei Meng began to splash water dragonflies lay eggs. Suddenly, less than 3 inches away from Susan, a more than 1 foot long grass fish emerged, and it took a sip of water and sucked Susan into its belly. In a blink of an eye, Susan suffocated to death, but then, the grass fish exhaled and vomited Susan and her soul out. At that moment, the female Lei Meng dragonfly was skimming the water less than 1 meter away, laying dragonfly eggs on the water plants close to the water surface, and Susan's soul, which had just escaped from the fish's belly, for some reason landed on a Lei Meng dragonfly egg that had just been laid. In this way, Susan became a dragonfly egg and began a new life. About half a month later, Susan, along with its brothers and sisters, hatched into larvae on the water plants. We usually call this kind of larvae water scorpions. Water scorpions have to live a long crawling life in the water, at least 1 year, and it takes more than 2 years for Lei Meng dragonfly eggs like Susan to emerge as dragonfly adults. Now Susan has become a water scorpion, and we call it Susan water scorpion. Like other water scorpions, Susan stretches out its hooked lower lip with claws countless times a day to catch small animals in the water, fish eggs, floating larvae and tiny tadpoles. It is also an expert in pest control, and it specializes in eating mosquito larvae. In addition, like other water scorpions, Susan is occasionally interested in fish eggs, frog eggs and crab eggs, and tries them to satisfy its thirst. No mistake, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6 to 9 book, 1 forum. Susan water scorpion looks a bit like a butterfly spider, with a very big belly. It is also an expert swimmer, using a jet-like method. As long as the abdomen is compressed, water will spray backwards, and the body will naturally rush forward at a very fast speed. In addition, it breathes through rectal tracheal gills. Although the water scorpion has a lot of food, it has even more natural enemies. There are various fish of different sizes under the water, water birds such as wild ducks, wild geese, swans, mandarin ducks and cranes on the water, and amphibians such as frogs and insects such as blister beetles, waterside ants, water beetles, and scorpion bugs on the shore. In view of the above reasons, if the water scorpion wants to safely pass through the dangers in the past 2 years, it must take some effective measures. Chapter 352, Dragonfly Skimming the Water. First, it thought of camouflage, that is, hiding its body, and the way to do it is to hide in the dense water grass, or hide under the leaves falling on the water. When Susan hides in the dense water grass, it can only wait for the small prey to drift over by itself. The disadvantage of this hunting method is that it is very passive and needs to wait for a very long time, but it also has the advantage that it is very safe. It can avoid sneak attacks from fish under the water surface and is not easily discovered by various natural enemies on the water surface. When Susan water scorpion hides under the leaves falling on the water surface, the biggest advantage of this method is that it is flexible and can push the leaves to any place on the water surface at will. The initiative is completely in its own hands and it can quickly obtain the food it needs. However, this also has disadvantages, that is, it can only prevent being discovered by various natural enemies on the water surface, but it is easy to be discovered by large and small fish under the water surface. Susan was almost eaten by fish in the water several times. Later, Susan had the idea of forming a guerrilla team of water scorpions, and once assembled a guerrilla team of 70 or 80 water scorpions, using various dead branches and leaves of different sizes falling on the water surface to approach and hunt for water scorpions in secret. Unexpectedly, they were attacked by large and small fish schools underwater, and suffered heavy losses. In the end, Susan relied on his extraordinary agility and excellent luck to escape this disaster. Obviously, the idea of forming a guerrilla team of water scorpions did not work. The target was too big and it was easy to attract the attention of natural enemies. In the end, Susan had to work alone, but even if he worked alone, it was very risky to go out hunting frequently. Therefore, in most cases, Susan's water scorpion still took the approach of hiding in dense water plants and waiting for the prey to catch them. In this way, they needed the endurance and strong perseverance to endure hunger. There was no other way. In order to survive, After a few months, Susan finally mastered the ability to endure hunger. It is precisely because of this ability that it has become one of the few water scorpions that can survive. A year later, Susan's water scorpion gradually grew up, but it was surprised to find that some water scorpions grew stronger and stronger than itself, so it quietly followed them and found that these guys were really brave and adventurous. They often used leaves falling on the water to move quickly to capture prey, so they ate more and better food than Susan, and naturally grew faster and better, but the risks also increased a lot. From time to time, they were attacked by various fish in the water. Fortunately, they were all extraordinary and responsive, and every time they used the trump card of dragonfly water scorpions, a jet-propelled escape method, sucking water into the abdomen and then pressing it out through the anus. Water may be discharged vigorously in this way, creating a jet-propelled escape method. Solid waste is also discharged in this way. As the saying goes, wealth and honor are sought in danger. If you want to be stronger and better than others, you must take some risks. After understanding this principle, Susan also began to learn to copy homework. At the beginning, because he was not very skilled, he was almost eaten by a big fish. After learning from the lesson, Susan was very careful every time. He listened carefully to the movement under the water every time. He started to hunt for food only after finding no abnormal situation. After catching prey once, he would listen carefully to the movement under the water again, and then hunt for the second time. He would repeat this process and never dare to be careless again. If he found abnormal movement, it meant that there was a fish coming. Susan would use the unique jet propulsion escape method of the water scorpion to escape from danger. From then on, Susan's water scorpion rarely had any accidents. This morning, Susan hid under a fallen leaf floating on the water as usual, listened carefully to the movement under the water, and found nothing abnormal. He was about to gently push the fallen leaf towards the waters, where he estimated that there might be many mosquito larvae. Suddenly, there was a sound of flapping wings coming from far away in the air, followed by a splashing sound of water and a few quack-quack sounds. Obviously, these were a few wild geese flying down from the sky, and one of the wild geese, Wild Goose A, said, "Hey, I like to eat water scorpions in the water the most. I wonder if there are any in this small pond." Then, another Wild Goose B, said, "Generally speaking, there are more water scorpions in small ponds than in streams and rivers, because the water here is generally not flowing, it is still water, and dragonflies like to lay eggs here the most." When Wild Goose A heard this, he couldn't help but said happily, "That's great. Now I'm in for a treat." Unexpectedly, another Wild Goose C, interrupted and said, "Don't be too happy too soon. Maybe the water scorpions here have been eaten by other animals. It's not certain." Wild Goose A retorted very dissatisfiedly, "You are such a bad guy. Are you deliberately going against me?" Wild Goose C said in defense, "How could I deliberately go against you? I was just stating the objective facts." Wild Goose B hurriedly came in to smooth things over, saying, "Stop arguing, both of you. Let's look carefully, and everything will be clear, right?" Wild Goose C also quickly agreed, saying, "The eldest is right. Let's all look carefully, and we'll soon know if my guess is correct." So, the three wild geese stopped talking and went their separate ways to look for the water scorpion. Susan heard this and thought, "This is going to be troublesome. If a careful wild goose carefully turns over the fallen leaves above my head, I'll be in danger. Yes, there's no time to lose, I'd better escape now." Thinking of this, Susan used his special move, the jet-propelled escape method, but this time he didn't move towards the surface of the water, but towards the depths of the water, and with a swish, he dived into the cracks in the rocks at the bottom of the water. But doing so also has a side effect, that is, it leaves traces on the water surface, a series of bubbles and gurgling sounds, which attract the attention of its natural enemy, the wild geese. This then attracts the attention of Goose Beta, which says with joy, "A series of bubbles just appeared here, which means a water scorpion has just escaped." There is no mistake in the poem, the content of which can be found in the 16:9 book bar. Wild Goose C retorted without thinking, "Don't let your imagination run wild. Who knows what just escaped? Maybe it was a small fish? Anyway, none of us saw it, so you can say whatever you want." Wild Goose A said angrily, "Why do you always like to contradict me? Did I offend you in some way that you always pick on me?" Wild Goose C hurriedly explained, "I really didn't mean to contradict you. You didn't offend me either, but I have always been a straightforward person. I don't know how to beat around the bush. I just say whatever I want to say. Please don't mind it. Just pretend that I didn't say anything just now, Wild Goose complained angrily. It's the same as not saying anything. Isn't that the same as farting? Next time, when you fart, don't let it smell so bad, okay? Wild Goose couldn't help but laugh and said, how come you two talked about farting? Do you want to fart or do you want to eat? Chapter 353, The Troubled Water Scorpion. Finally, everyone was silent, all lowered their heads to work, and carefully searched for water scorpions. After Susan, who was hiding in the cracks of the rocks 3 meters underwater, heard the conversation of the 3 geese, he just wanted to laugh, but he couldn't laugh. The 3 geese carefully searched for a long time, but they didn't find a single water scorpion. After all, the surviving water scorpions were all elites, and they were masters at escaping from natural enemies. Those idiots, stupid people and unlucky people. Water scorpions had long been wiped out by various natural enemies from the sky, the water surface, the shore and the water. The remaining few dozen or 30 water scorpions were all elite soldiers and generals, and it was difficult for a hunter like a wild goose to catch them. At this time, a big frog squatted on the shore and called loudly, quack, quack, quack. When Susan heard it, he knew that this guy was complaining there, meaning, I am so pitiful. It has been more than 2 months since I have eaten a water scorpion. My stomach, my heart, and my belly are all in pain. You water scorpions, please have mercy on me and give me one to satisfy my craving. I don't want more, just one is enough. Quack, quack, quack. Listening to the frog's greedy complaints, Susan just felt it was very fun and funny. He thought, I just want you to be unable to eat even if you want to, so that you will die of greed. You deserve it. At dusk, the sky was full of colorful clouds, and the setting sun reflected the branches, leaves, weeds and reeds around the small pond, making the surrounding scenery look sparkling. Susan, hiding under a fallen leaf, gently pushed the fallen leaf forward to swim, ready to find today's dinner, and suddenly heard a dong sound on the water half a meter away from him on the right. What insect fell into the water? Susan didn't care about it, because such accidental events happen from time to time, so he continued to push the fallen leaf above his head forward. Suddenly, something grabbed his tail, or his buttocks tightly. Susan couldn't help but be shocked. What was it? Could it be a water beetle? Water beetles also like to eat water scorpions. Being caught by it is no joke. If you don't die, you will lose your skin. The insect that fell into the water just now must be this guy, because water beetles are good at diving and swimming. Now the water beetle happened to grab the buttocks of Susan's water scorpion. Susan immediately thought of a way to deal with it. He used his abdomen to deeply inhale enough water, and then suddenly sprayed it out from his anus. The strong water flow suddenly sprayed towards the water beetle behind Susan, who was holding Susan's buttocks with 2 claws. The water beetle couldn't resist this sudden strong water flow, and its 2 claws were no longer able to hold Susan's tail. It was washed away by the water sprayed from Susan's anus, and Susan also escaped the bad luck of being eaten by the water beetle with a strong water flow. Time flies, and more than 2 years have passed quickly. The sky at dawn gradually changed from fish belly white to light blue, and then continued to fade, almost blue-white, hazy, as if separated by a layer of blue mist. This morning, Susan suddenly found that his short and fat belly had become increasingly slender, and he felt a strong urge to transform into a dragon. His whole body felt numb and itchy, as if he was bitten by tens of thousands of ants. So he tried his best to catch food. After eating and drinking, he climbed onto a rock exposed above the water and quietly waited for the arrival of a change in fate. There were no frogs, water lice, blister beetles and other enemies on this rock exposed above the water. Susan had to stay here for at least 3 days without eating or drinking before he could complete his gorgeous transformation. Will Susan succeed in transforming into a dragon this time? Unfortunately, the god of fate did not favor Susan this time, which just proved the old saying, good things take time. The next evening, a big frog suddenly jumped over from somewhere else. It saw a delicious water scorpion on the rock and couldn't help salivating. Quack, quack, wow. I finally have a good meal today. Haha. Let's see where you can run today. Before he finished speaking, he pounced on Susan fiercely. At this moment, Susan, who was drowsy, heard the frog suddenly jumping over and the subsequent voice, and was immediately awakened. In a flash, Susan rolled into the water with a subtle movement. This was actually an emergency measure it had thought of long ago, otherwise it would not dare to climb to this big rock, equivalent to Susan water scorpion, to take risks. After all, lying on this white rock is too conspicuous and the target is too big. The first metamorphosis into an insect failed. After this failure, Susan carefully summed up the lessons learned from the failure and thought that he must not continue to metamorphose into a dragon in an overly exposed place, as it would be very dangerous and he would be attacked by enemies at any time. He had to find a very hidden place to do it. So where's the most hidden place? Susan thought about it carefully and found that there was a dense reed in the shade under the small dwarf tree by the small pond. In this reed patch, there were many reeds bending from the water to the shore. If he hid on these reed stems, it should be relatively hidden. Soon, Susan found the place he thought of. After eating and drinking, he climbed onto a bent reed stem and began to quietly wait for the arrival of the second metamorphosis. Unexpectedly, at noon the next day, a group of big black ants came to the shore of the small pond in the reeds where Susan was. There were at least several hundred of them. Not long after, a black ant scout found Susan hiding on a bent reed stalk and hurried to report to the captain of the ant brigade. Report to the captain, I found a superb delicacy, on a bent reed stalk by the lake. The black ant captain asked in surprise, what kind of delicacy is it? Look at how excited you are, you won't make me happy for nothing, will you? The ant scout hurriedly said in detail, it's a dragonfly water scorpion. It will probably transform into a dragonfly in 1 or 2 days, the black ant captain said in surprise. Ah, that's great. Guys, follow me to see it. As soon as he finished speaking, he led a large group of ants to the place where the ant scout said. The ants followed the direction pointed by the ant scouts, and sure enough, on a curved reed not far from the shore, there really was a water scorpion that was about to turn into a large dragonfly, with some transparent wings faintly growing on its back. Seeing this rare sight, the black ants cheered and jumped for joy, but soon they quieted down. And everyone was silent. Because they soon discovered that there was a problem in front of them, that is, the curved reed where Susan was standing was not completely in contact with the ground. Its root was half a meter away from the shore, and its curved top was about 25 centimeters away from the ground on the shore. This hateful 25 centimeters actually made the ants sigh in despair. Chapter 354, Difficult Transformation. Even if an ant ladder is built, it still cannot reach the root of the reed. There is still a half-meter distance to the root of the reed. This half-meter distance is not worth mentioning for humans, but it is an insurmountable gap for ants. Seeing the meat that is about to be eaten, but can only be seen but not eaten, the black ant captain is anxious like an ant on a hot pot, turning around and around. Suddenly, it found that about half a meter away from the reed, there is another reed on the left side of the pond that is about half a meter away from the reed that is so annoying. It is almost bent to the ground, only about 3 or 4 centimeters from the ground. At this time, the ant captain's heart was like boiling water. Can I use this reed that is about to bend to the ground? How to use it? I could bite off this reed to at least 27 or 28 centimeters long, and then use this 27 or 28 centimeters long reed as a ladder to the top of the reed with a water scorpion, and then send my ant soldiers to drag down the damn water scorpion. Now the problem becomes how to reach this reed that is bent to only 3 or 4 centimeters from the ground. However, this problem is much easier to solve. The ant captain immediately called a team of about 50 black ants and asked them to find a fallen leaf on the ground nearby. After a while, this ant team found and pushed a fallen leaf about 10 centimeters long. The ant captain immediately ordered the ants to put this fallen leaf on the top of the bent reed that was about to touch the ground, and soon the requirement was met. Then he called a few big black ants with sharp teeth to climb from the fallen leaf to the middle of the bent reed, estimated to be more than 30 centimeters, and bite off the reed. Soon the project was completed. With a soft pop sound, the reed stem bitten by the ants fell to the ground on the bank of the pond together with the ant suicide squad. Thus, the world's simplest ant ladder was completed. The ants worked together to move the ladder to the bottom of the reed where Susan was. Then, with great effort, they just connected the reed ladder to the top of the long-awaited reed. The black ant captain excitedly ordered the black ant suicide squad to immediately march along the ladder towards the water scorpion that was about to be in their mouths. A group of excited ant suicide squads quickly crawled towards Susan. Then, Susan seemed to be asleep at this time, without any movement. Did he really not know that the god of death was approaching him again? But just when the black ants thought victory was in sight, suddenly, the ant suicide squad crawling on the reed felt the reed shake violently, followed by a boom sound of water, and the water scorpion disappeared from the place where it had been. It turned out that Susan was not asleep, and had been closely watching the actions of this group of ants. After all, she was once the supreme ruler of the Ant Empire, the queen of the Red Ant Empire, so all the actions of this group of ants aroused her great interest. She wanted to see how smart a black ant commander was. However, it turned out that the ant commander was not stupid, and he actually thought of the simplest and most effective way, which did not disappoint Susan's expectations. Of course, it was impossible for Susan to be caught by this group of wishful black ants. When the leader of the black ant suicide squad was only a few centimeters away from Susan no longer dared to hesitate, and immediately turned over and fell into the water, as if a cooked duck flew away. The black ant captain who was standing on the ground watched this scene without blinking, and his face showed a long-lost deep disappointment. He was hit hard and angrily scolded the ant scout. Susan was just as disappointed as the black ant captain, because his second attempt to become an adult failed again. Next time, Susan would need to be more cautious and consider everything carefully. Finally, he decided to climb a big tree before dawn. Why choose dawn instead of other time periods? It would definitely not work during the day, because there would be birds in the sky, wild geese and ducks on the water, and ants on the ground. What about at night? It would not work at night either, because there would be enemies such as frogs, blister beetles and water lice at night. In addition, dragonflies and water scorpions have poor eyesight at night and cannot see anything. Therefore, dawn is the best choice for Susan. The night was gradually fading away, and the sky slowly turned from dark black to blue, then to white, and gradually brightened up. The sky was showing a warm and soft reddish color, which gradually deepened, and rays of light poured down. During this change in the sky, Susan kept climbing up the tree that he had chosen before the night fell completely last night. At this time, the frogs were tired of calling and had just fallen asleep. Other enemies had also had enough activities and had long since returned to their nests to sleep. The various natural enemies during the day had not yet gotten up or were still on their way here. Taking advantage of this gap, Susan's water scorpion had already climbed up the trunk of the tree. When the sky was completely bright and the first batch of birds flew in, Susan actually found a tree hole of moderate size in the upper part of the tree. Thank God, Susan was able to get in. Just as Susan hid in the tree hole and concealed himself, a sparrow happened to land on a branch only half a meter away from the tree hole. This was a male sparrow. As soon as it flew to the tree branch, it began to chirp and sing at the top of its voice, "Little honey, come here quickly, come here quickly. My heart is waiting and waiting, little darling, please fly here quickly, my heart is anxious and anxious." Susan felt as if he had heard this song somewhere before. It seemed to be sung by a thrush. The thrush was a star singer among birds, so its singing was naturally much better than that of the sparrow. Unlike this sparrow, not only did it sing out of tune, but it also had a hoarse voice, which made Susan laugh uncontrollably. Unexpectedly, the sparrow's hearing was very sensitive. Although it was screaming at the top of its lungs, it actually heard Susan's slight laughter. So the sparrow stopped singing, glanced around, and said, Who is laughing? How dare you laugh at my singing? What kind of bird is this?" Suddenly, its eyes landed on a tree hole on the tree trunk to its left. This tree hole was exactly the tree hole where Susan was hiding. How come there is a tree hole here? The sparrow couldn't help but mutter to himself. Why didn't I notice it when I came here last time? At this time, Susan, who was hiding in the tree hole, couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Of course you didn't notice it, you must have been busy singing that time. If I hadn't laughed out loud this time, I'm afraid you still wouldn't have noticed it now. Hey, I came here to sing as soon as I got out this morning, but now I feel a little hungry. The sparrow muttered to himself again. It would be nice if there was something to eat nearby, even a small worm would be fine. Chapter 355, Susan Dragonfly. Well, maybe there are 1 or 2 worms hidden in this tree hole. Yes, I might as well take a look. The sparrow just finished talking to himself and hopped along the branch to move towards it. Susan, who knew the language of sparrows, was frightened when he heard that this annoying sparrow was going to run to the tree hole to take a look. He hurriedly drilled into the tree hole until his body could not move any further. It should be safe now, Susan thought so fortunately. The sparrow hopped to the tree hole and tried to drill its head into the tree hole. Unfortunately, the tree hole was too small and there was no way to put the whole bird's head into the hole. The sparrow was unwilling to give up and kept turning his head. He tried several methods, but all failed. Finally, the sparrow had to give up and murmured again, "How strange. I can clearly smell the smell of fleshworms, no, water scorpions, in this hole, but why can't I see them? Maybe this tree hole is too deep. Oh. It's so unlucky, I can smell it but can't eat it, what a pity. Forget it, I'd better leave this unlucky place." As soon as the voice fell, it flapped its wings and flew away. So Susan was all right from then on? I'm afraid not. The sparrow flew away, and no other birds flew to this tree for a long time, but Susan encountered something more troublesome than the crisis just now. What happened? It turned out that Susan was afraid that other birds would fly to the tree in broad daylight, so she stayed where she was and dared not move. However, she did not know that this was Susan's special period, the period of transformation into a dragon. Her water scorpion body was changing every moment, that is, it was slowly growing transparent dragonfly wings. Susan stayed there for a whole day, and by the evening, it had grown very long and big dragonfly wings, but it was stuck in the narrow tree hole and could not get out, and could not even move. Looking at her own miserable appearance, Susan was so depressed that she just wanted to cry, but would crying be useful? She had to rely on herself to find her way out. So Susan used her brain, used all her skills, and tried every possible way. Although there was some progress, she still could not get out. On the afternoon of the next day, when Susan was about to give up in despair, suddenly, a wasp flew in from the tree hole. Susan was overjoyed when he saw it, and immediately had an idea in his mind. He said to the wasp in a sweet voice, "Brother wasp, please save me. I am stuck in this rat hole and can't get out." The wasp looked up and was shocked and said, "Ah, how did you, such a big dragonfly, get into this small tree hole? You are really good. I really admire you." Susan smiled bitterly and said embarrassedly, "Brother wasp, please don't make fun of me. I had to do this. If it wasn't for avoiding being hunted by sparrows and other flying birds, no one would be willing to hide in this tree hole with a small asshole." The wasp thought for a while and said, "That's true, but I can't think of it. Why do you have to hide in this tree hole with a small asshole you said when you are such a big dragonfly?" Susan complained helplessly, "I have no choice. I am going to transform from a water scorpion to a dragonfly these days. The last 2 times I transformed under the tree, I was almost eaten by enemies. So I climbed up the tree and found this tree hole. I went into this hole to transform. But I didn't expect to end up in such an embarrassing situation. Wow, so that's how it is. No wonder." The wasp suddenly realized. "Then how do you want me to help you? Just help me move my wings from the place where they are stuck in the tree hole," Susan quickly suggested. After a long time, the wasp struggled to pull out Susan's dragonfly wings stuck in the tree hole, so that Susan could barely get out of the tree hole, and the wings that were originally stacked together also unfolded one by one. At this time, the sun was about to set, and Susan spread out his thin dragonfly wings and began his maiden flight, first flight, in his dragonfly career. Just as it was about to take off, a whirlwind suddenly blew in the air, making Susan dizzy. His body involuntarily fell headfirst under the tree. It seemed that he was going to be finished again. Just when Susan was about to fall headfirst, Susan suddenly woke up. In a flash, he flapped his dragonfly wings with an incredible speed. Finally, at the critical moment when he was only 1 centimeter away from the ground, he pulled himself back from the gate of hell, took off, flew into the air, and soared over the small pond. After going through hardships, Susan finally completed the process of metamorphosis and became a dragonfly, like a flying dragon in the sky. It was just because Susan completed the metamorphosis into a dragon in the narrow tree hole, so he felt that his wings were a little awkward and it was particularly difficult to wave them. However, in order to make up for this natural deficiency, Susan flew desperately, and even when night fell, he did not rest. He had to work hard and sweat to make up for this defect. Susan stopped flying until she was exhausted and could not fly anymore. She finally landed on a leaf on a tall branch and fell into deep sleep. The next morning, the cool air was filled with a quiet joy, and the gentle breath of the breeze was almost imperceptible. After Susan woke up, she felt extremely comfortable all over her body, and her mental state was completely renewed. It seemed that she had never felt such a happy feeling. She gently flapped her thin wings, and felt that her body was as light as a feather, which made her eager to try. No mistakes, one post, one content, one book, one bar. Then, Susan floated in the air easily, as if she had not used any strength at all. Her wings kept flapping involuntarily, allowing her to hover anywhere in the air like a helicopter. Now Susan felt that she had completely mastered all the skills of a normal dragonfly flight. Yesterday's discomfort and defects had been made up by her hard work and sweat last night. It was so happy that Susan couldn't help laughing. Suddenly, he felt very hungry and thought, I must find something to eat right away. What should I eat? I can't eat the same things I ate when I was a water scorpion. What do dragonflies like to eat? It seems that they like to eat mosquitoes, flies, small moths and small insects. Yes, I will find these things to eat. Thinking of this, Susan waved his dragonfly wings and looked for food in the woods, by the pond, in the weeds, in the reeds, and even in the surrounding area. Around a low-lying puddle 200 meters southeast of the grove, Susan found many tiny mosquitoes flying in the air. So he opened his mouth and flew towards the countless mosquitoes. While flying, he opened and closed his mouth, sucking in many blindly flying mosquitoes. He ate at least dozens of mosquitoes at once and was half full. Chapter 356 Making Friends. After a while, they got tired of eating and didn't want to eat anymore, so they turned around and left to look for other prey. When Susan flew back to the small pond, he suddenly found a few big flies playing cat and mouse in a reed bush. He was overjoyed and flew over to start the cat and mouse game. A female green-headed fly was very conceited. She lay on a dead toad and ate and drank without caring. Not only that, but what was even more annoying was that she laid fly eggs on the toad's body while eating so that maggots would grow on the rotten meat. When Susan saw this, he couldn't help but get angry and thought, good guy, you really know how to enjoy yourself. You met me today, you are unlucky, your doom has come. He immediately pounced on it and grabbed the guy who was eating the last meal. However, after catching it, Susan did not execute it on the spot immediately, but wanted to interrogate it like a police officer catching a criminal. Then, Susan asked in the language of flies, hey, green-headed fat man, how was your last meal before death? Ah, you, a big dragonfly, can actually speak the language of flies. I'm sure you are either a god or a monster. Well, it's worth it for me to fall into your hands today, the green-headed fly said in great surprise and dejection. You haven't answered my question yet? Say it now. Don't waste time, Susan scolded. I originally thought that this was a delicious feast sent by God, and I was enjoying it, but I didn't expect you to suddenly appear out of nowhere. Now I think that this feast is actually a huge trap, or a hogman banquet. Now I have no appetite at all, and I just want to vomit. You dirty guys who spread bacteria and viruses everywhere, not only were you born dirty, but also eat dirty food. I will now sentence you to death and eat you. Wait, sir, since you think I'm dirty, why do you eat me? Aren't you afraid that the dirty bacteria and viruses on my body will be transmitted to you? Ah. This, I really didn't think of it. Then what do you think I should do with you? This is not easy to deal with, just let me go. It's all over, that won't do. The police have finally caught a criminal, are they going to let him go casually? Am I, a law-abiding citizen, also a criminal? Are you really law-abiding? You spread bacteria and viruses everywhere and endanger everyone, isn't that a crime? Who have I endangered? There is no human being within a radius of hundreds of kilometers. Besides, I can't fly that far, and I have never endangered a human being. It's not a crime, right? Police comrade, then I can't let you go either. I haven't had enough to eat yet. If you are not afraid that the bacteria and viruses in my body will be transmitted to you and cause you to die prematurely, then you can eat as much as you want. Since I can't eat you, I can bite you to death, right? That won't work either. I have very deadly bacteria and viruses all over my body. Isn't it the same thing for you to bite me and eat me? You will be infected with the bacteria and viruses in the same way, and you will die prematurely in the same way. It seems that I will have to let you go. This is of course the best. Everyone does not invade each other. It's good for you, it's good for me, and it's good for everyone. Isn't it the best of both worlds? I didn't expect your eloquence, no, your debate skills, are so good. I surrender. I think you must have been a lawyer in your previous life, I don't deserve it. I think it is your kindness and love that touched me and gave me the opportunity to defend myself. Well, I'll let you go today. But can we be friends? Great. Obedience is worse than respect. I fully agree. What's your name? Susan asked. My name is Fat-Faced Woman. Uncle, what about you? Said the green-headed fly. My name is Susan. From now on, you can call me by my name, and you don't have to call me uncle anymore, Susan said. Okay. I'll listen to you. Can I leave now? Asked the green-headed fly again. You go. I still have to find food. After saying that, Susan let go of Fat-Faced Woman and flew away. If you want to find something that dragonflies like to eat, you can find it everywhere in this primitive jungle. Soon, Susan had a full belly. In addition to finding what she wanted to eat, Susan also met other dragonflies, most of which were of other species, but there were also one or two of the same species. No mistakes in one poem, one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1/6, 1/9, one book, one forum, one look. When Susan met a dragonfly of the same species, he couldn't help but wonder, how did they transform into dragons? Why don't I ask them? It's also a way to exchange experiences. With this idea in mind, when he met another lame-mang dragonfly for the second time, Susan couldn't help but fly forward and greeted it. Hey, brother, how are you? What are you doing? Unexpectedly, this lame-mang dragonfly didn't bite and said, who is your brother? Please open your dog eyes and take a good look. I am your sister, not your shitty brother. Wow. Unexpectedly, this person is a female, and a hot girl with a hot temper. Susan felt a little amused and said calmly, hello, lady. I'm sorry, I was frightened by the handsomeness of you just now, and I thought you were a male. Please accept my apology. These dragonfly ladies were immediately stunned by Susan's elegant gentlemanly demeanor. They hovered in the air, staring at Susan, with a dumbfounded look, and didn't say a word for a long time. What's wrong? Beautiful and charming Miss Tiankui, did I say something wrong? Seeing this, Susan couldn't help but ask self-deprecatingly. No, sir, you are so gentlemanly, said the dragonfly lady. Really? But I don't think I have a gentlemanly demeanor. Sometimes, I even feel like I'm a complete ruffian, Susan said modestly. You are too modest. Miss Dragonfly's eyes widened, and a very strange expression appeared on her face. She turned her head, looking up and down, left and right, and carefully observed Susan. After a moment, she laughed hysterically, shaking all over, and her thin dragonfly wings trembled. Seeing this, Susan couldn't help but feel puzzled, thinking that Miss Dragonfly must have had some problems, perhaps an intermittent neurosis. But just when Susan was about to ignore her and turn away, unexpectedly, Miss Dragonfly seemed to have laughed enough, stopped laughing hysterically, and still had a smile on her face. Looking at Susan with tears in her eyes, she actually laughed so hard that she even shed a lot of tears, and said, Dude, don't you know your gender, or have you always been pretending to be a handsome guy? Hearing this, Susan suddenly felt confused. Wow, could it be that I have become a female again this time? Why don't I feel anything? Chapter 357 Dragonfly Sisters. Oh. Forget it, whether it is a male or a female, it doesn't matter, they are all living things anyway. It's okay, wouldn't it be easier to make friends with Miss Dragonfly if she is the same gender? So, Susan asked curiously, Sister, how long have you been emerging as a dragon? Miss Dragonfly replied proudly, about 3 or 4 days. I remember that morning when the sun just showed its round face, my wings had fully grown out. You are so lucky. You actually emerged as a dragon in the morning. Susan couldn't help but envy her. But I am not as lucky as you. Not only did I emerge in a tree hole, but I was also stuck in the hole and couldn't get out. If a wasp hadn't come to rescue me, I might have died in the hole now. Moreover, when I came out of the hole, it was almost dark. I felt dizzy and almost fell from the tree and died. Wow. You are so pitiful, Miss Dragonfly said with deep sympathy. If I had known you were so pitiful, I wouldn't have been so mean to you. It doesn't matter. Let's be good sisters. Maybe we even have the same mother, Susan said sincerely. You were born a few days earlier than me, so I'll call you sister. But I don't know your name. My name is Hot Girl. Dear girl, what's your name? Miss Dragonfly asked while answering. My name is Susan. You can call me Susan sister, that's fine too, Susan said. Interesting. In that case, Wouldn't we both be called this sister or that sister? How unpleasant. Otherwise, I'd better just call you Susan's sister. Anyway, I'm not a few days older than you. Besides, I think you are more courageous and have more leadership qualities than me, Hot Girl said modestly. How embarrassing. Isn't it taking advantage of you for nothing? Susan said embarrassedly. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. I don't mind. Why do you mind? The name is just a symbol. It doesn't matter. It's settled, Hot Girl actually said so fiercely. Hot Girl, then you have to listen to me in the future, Susan deliberately teased her. Ah. Does that mean I have to listen to you in everything? Hot Girl asked without comment. What do you think? Susan looked at Hot Girl with a sly look on her face. Well, if you're right, I will listen to you. If you're wrong, I will not listen. Hot Girl thought for a while and then expressed her opinion. How about this? I will discuss everything with you first. What do you think? Susan asked in a soft tone. That's more like it. This is how a sister should act, Hot Girl agreed happily. Oh. By the way, there is one thing I almost forgot to ask you. Where did you hide to transform into a dragon? Susan suddenly remembered and asked. I hid on a leaf to transform into a dragon. What's the problem? Hot Girl asked in confusion. No problem, it's very smart and reasonable. The key is why I didn't think of it at the time, Susan said with some regret. Who knows? Maybe everyone's destiny is different, Hot Girl explained ambiguously. It's not that our fates are different, but I was bewildered at that time. Or you are smarter than me, Susan couldn't help but sigh. Sister, you shouldn't praise me like that. But after hearing you say that, I really feel a little proud, Hot Girl said complacently. I'm really right. You are much smarter than me in this matter, Susan praised her without hiding anything. Sister Susan, please stop talking. I feel embarrassed by what you said. I'm hungry again now. How about we go find something to eat now? No problem. I'm a little hungry too. Let's go find something to eat. As soon as the voice fell, the two female dragonflies flew together and flew to the surrounding bushes to find small insects to eat. Seeing mosquitoes, small moths and ladybugs, the two of them adopted the method of encircling from both sides, splitting into two groups and flying over to start the hunting competition to catch prey. The two female dragonflies each caught nearly 100 mosquitoes and several small moths and ladybugs, eating until their mouths were full of oil, and they stopped their ruthless killing of small insects until they were full and burped. Afterwards, the two sisters felt a little bored, so they came up with the idea of a sports competition to see who could fly faster and higher. In the who could reach the finish line first flight competition within a distance of about 100 meters, Hot Girl was one body faster than Susan, reached the finish line first, and won. In the who could fly higher competition, the two of them competed very fiercely, taking turns to lead each other. In the end, it was Susan who won the final victory with scientific breathing, reasonable rhythm arrangement and tenacious perseverance, and finally was nearly 2 meters higher than Hot Girl. After these two flying competitions, they were both exhausted, so much so that they had to rely on gliding to land from the highest point. After a good rest, Susan and Hot Girl both felt a little hungry after the previous game, so they went hunting together again. This time, they found a few big flies by the small pond. Hot Girl jumped on them with great joy and soon caught a big fly. She was about to eat it. Unexpectedly, Susan shouted, "Wait a minute, Hot Girl, how can you eat flies? Don't you know that flies have a lot of bacteria and viruses?" What? What are bacteria and viruses? Why can't we eat bacteria and viruses? Hot Girl looked at Susan in confusion and asked. What can I tell you? In short, if you eat bacteria and viruses, you will get sick and even die sooner, Susan explained. Ah. So powerful. Could this fly also contain bacteria and viruses? Hot Girl asked worriedly. Of course, all flies have bacteria and viruses, Susan said confidently. Then according to what you said, anyone who eats flies will get sick, or even die? Hot Girl asked doubtfully. Of course, in theory, it is true, Susan said affirmatively. That's not right. I ate at least 1 or 2 flies almost every day in the past few days. How come I haven't gotten sick yet? Maybe you are in good health and have strong resistance, so you haven't gotten sick, but if you keep developing bad habits like this, you will get seriously ill sooner or later. No way. According to what you said, even if I haven't gotten sick yet, I should feel uncomfortable, but every time I eat a fly, I feel energetic all over. How can this happen? Ah. How can this happen? Susan felt a little incredible. Then you must have made a mistake. In fact, flies don't have the bacteria and viruses you mentioned. Hot girl put forward her own opinion. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358 Dietary Issues. That's impossible. Because I know that all flies do carry bacteria and viruses, but I don't know what kind of bacteria and viruses they are, Susan explained confidently. Then how did you know that flies carry those bacteria and viruses you mentioned? Hot girl asked suspiciously. Of course I know it from scientific common sense, Susan replied. Then what is scientific common sense? Hot girl asked to get to the bottom of it. This scientific common sense is defined by humans. For us dragonflies, it is too profound and not something you and I can understand. Susan was afraid of being exposed, so she hurriedly covered up. Sister Susan, then how do you know these human things? Hot girl asked very confusedly. As for me, actually, I don't know either. I just imagined it, Susan continued to perfunctorily. No, you must have heard it somewhere, so you said so. Hot girl judged this way according to her own imagination. Yes, I heard it from someone somewhere. Susan's eyes lit up when she heard it, and she quickly followed up. Then think about it carefully. Who did you hear it from? Hot girl asked while the iron was hot. Well, it seems that I heard it from a green-hooded fly. It has a nickname, called Fat Face Woman, Susan said frankly. Ah, Sister Susan, you are really amazing. You can even understand the language of flies and talk to flies. Then where did you learn it from? Tell me the truth, Hot girl said with admiration and reluctance. This, I didn't learn it from anywhere, I was born with it. Maybe I was a fly in my previous life, and I haven't forgotten the language of flies until this life. Susan found that she accidentally let the cat out of the bag, so she quickly made up her mind. Really, Sister Susan, but how can I believe what you say? Hot girl didn't seem to believe what Susan said at all. Believe it or not, I just know what the fly said, Susan simply replied to the question of Hot girl. What did that green-headed fly named Fat-Faced Woman say to you that made you afraid to eat flies? It didn't say much, just said that she had a lot of deadly bacteria and viruses, and told me not to eat her and give her a chance to live. Ah, so it was this green-headed fly that told you, and you let her go, and told me not to eat flies either. Is that right? Third Sister Sue. Yes, the course of events is basically just as you said. Third Sister Sue, are you stupid? You fell into someone's conspiracy. She said that on purpose, with the purpose of getting you to let her go. This is her way of saving her life, also known as the golden cicada escaping from its shell strategy, and you fell into the trap. No way? I think she is right. She was also thinking about my life. What do you mean by thinking about your life? That's for her own life. Third Sister Sue, you are so kind and lovely. People have deceived you and sold you, but you are still honestly counting money for them. It's not as serious as you say, right? She didn't cheat me of my money, and I didn't count money for her. I let her go, which is like sparing her life. This is a good thing to do good deeds, but how come you say it's like being cheated and counting money for others? Susan asked in confusion. Well, if you want to do good deeds, then don't eat flies. Anyway, I don't need to do good deeds, so I'll eat them anyway. As soon as she finished speaking, Hot girl grabbed the fly in her hand and started eating it. Hey, Hot girl, are you really not afraid of getting sick or dying? Susan exclaimed in surprise. Do you think we dragonflies can live for a very long time? Let me tell you, we can only live for 3 or 4 months at most. It's summer now, and we will die by the end of autumn at the latest. It's better to enjoy it, and why think so much? You have the decadent idea of enjoy life while you can't, which has no future and is very dangerous. Aren't you afraid that one day, maybe tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, you will suddenly get sick and die? You are such a jinx, so annoying. If you don't want to eat, then don't eat. Why don't you let others eat? If others eat, you still curse them. Sister Susan, I suddenly found that you have a dark heart. Okay, you eat it. I won't say anything more. If you get seriously ill, don't blame me for not reminding you in advance, Susan said angrily. Nowadays, Susan dragonfly eats all small insects except flies, while hot girl eats whatever she wants, and she eats everything that dragonflies like to eat, without any taboos. After nightfall, they both landed on the upper leaves of a tall tree, which was safer at night. The lizards, mantises and spiders that threatened the dragonflies would not climb so high, and the birds that threatened them during the day also went to sleep at night. No mistake, one song, one post, one content, 1-6, one book, one bar. When the first ray of morning light shone on them, they woke up and began a new day of busyness. On this day, Susan and Hot Girl met another female dragonfly named Lingdong who had just emerged into a dragon. She also asked to join the small group formed by Susan and her sisters. Because she looked gentle and sweet, Susan gave her a common name, Little Sweet Girl. She came the latest and was also called Third Sister. From then on, the two sisters of Susan became the three sisters of Susan. In this way, their lives became more energetic every day, with more activities and a wider range of activities. However, when it comes to eating, Sweetie stands on the side of Hody, while Susan goes her own way and doesn't eat flies. Perhaps it's the human health consciousness that remains in her mind that's causing the problem. However, this difference did not affect the friendship between the sisters, but instead showed Susan's unique style and personality. That afternoon, Susan was resting on a leaf, while Sweetie and Hody went together to catch the flies they both liked to eat. After a while, they each caught a live green-headed fly and flew back, landing on a leaf next to Susan, intending to eat this delicious meal right under Susan's eyes. Suddenly, the green-headed fly caught by the hot girl saw Susan, and couldn't help but shouting in surprise, "Buzz buzz buzz, Susan, come and save me, I am the fat-faced woman. We have become friends. But your partner, the dragonfly that caught me, wants to eat me, you must stop her from committing the crime." Buzz buzz buzz, Susan took a closer look and found that it was the eloquent fly friend fat-faced woman she made that time. So she quickly pleaded with a hot girl for her, saying, "Second sister, this is the fly I spared last time, and later we became friends. Today, please let her go this time for my sake. I beg you, sister." Okay. Chapter 359 Sisters of One Heart. Ah. Is this the green-headed fly named Fat-Face Woman that you mentioned last time, the bad guy who cheated people to death without paying for his life? Then I can't let her go. This guy is too bad, full of slickness, causing my elder sister to not dare to catch flies until now. This is simply a shame for our dragonflies, Hot Girl couldn't help but said indignantly. Second sister, please calm down, don't get angry. If you have something to say, you can talk it out. Why bother to be so serious with a fly? Susan hurriedly persuaded. Is this an ordinary fly? This is simply a liar who is good at talking and cheating. Today I will enforce justice for the heavens and eliminate harm for the people and sentence this bad guy to death, Hot Girl said with a firm attitude and unyielding. I didn't expect that you, second sister, would not give me face and even spare my friends. Oh. I am such a failure as an elder sister, Susan couldn't help but sigh after hearing this. What kind of bullshit friend? Even a fly can be our friend, big sister, you really made me laugh. What's that look in your eyes? You really don't know how to make friends, right? Hot Girl couldn't help but laugh at Susan. That's right, I agree with what the second sister said. In the future, when big sister makes friends, we have to let us carefully screen them. Otherwise, all kinds of cats and dogs can become our friends, then won't we be laughed to death? Little Sweet Girl also interjected. How come you two are talking about the same thing? Do you still regard me as your big sister? Susan said dissatisfiedly. Big sister, no matter what you say, today we both don't agree to let go of this slick green-headed fly. Little Sweet Girl actually became stubborn. Okay then. It's up to you two. But I have a small request, which is to let me hear what this guy has to say before he dies. Is that okay? Susan had to beg for the second best. Hot Girl glanced at Sweet Girl, then looked at Susan and said, that's fine, just ask. Susan sighed and asked Fat-Faced Woman in fly language, they both don't want to let you go and must kill you. I can't persuade them. I'm so sorry. Do you have anything to say in the end? Do they really want my life? Oh. I'm so miserable. Why am I so unlucky to fall into the hands of these two unreasonable guys? Fat-Faced Woman complained dejectedly, and then struggled to death. Well, no, I have important information to report to you. Then can I use this important information to exchange for my life? What important information? If your information is really important to us, then I will try my best to save your life for you, Su-san said. I know which trees and dark corners have spider webs. Is this information important to you dragonflies? Fat-faced woman had to take out the important information she thought in exchange for her life. Ah. This is of course very important information for us, Su-san said in surprise. Then, Su-san turned to Hot Girl and said, Fat-faced woman said she has important information to report, saying that she knows where there is a spider web, haha, haha. Big sister, don't you think it's ridiculous? Hot Girl laughed disapprovingly. We are big dragonflies, and we can also be said to be the king of dragonflies. Are we still afraid of those small spider webs? What kind of spider web can't we tear easily? What can those small spiders do to me? I'm not afraid. Then can you spare fat-faced woman this time for my sake? This is my last beg, Su-san said with a final effort. Hey. Big sister, since you've said this, how can I not agree with you? Hot Girl had to compromise. However, this guy can be spared the death penalty, but she can't be forgiven for her crime. I must bite off one of her legs as a punishment, to see if she dares to cheat and deceive others in the future. As soon as she finished speaking, she bit off one of the hind legs of the green-headed fly fat-faced woman, and then let her go, letting her endure the pain of the broken leg and fly away in a miserable state. The fly in the hands of Sweet Girl was not so lucky, and was immediately swallowed by her in no time. Hot Girl who let fat-faced woman run away was unwilling to starve, so she quickly caught another fly and wolfed it in front of Su-san, as if she was angry or demonstrating, which made Su-san couldn't help but smile bitterly and shook her head. Although Su-san and the Hot Girl sisters had a big disagreement on dealing with flies, the three sisters were basically able to agree on other issues, especially when dealing with spiders, lizards and mantises. First of all, when dealing with spiders, the main thing is to destroy their spider webs. For ordinary and relatively small spider webs, any one of the three sisters can easily destroy them. A layman dragonfly is enough to easily tear these spider webs one by one. For those large spider webs woven by super large spiders, the three sisters need to work together to tear them apart. In this way, within a few days, Su-san and her two sisters destroyed all the spider webs they could find within a few miles. However, their efforts may be in vain, and the spiders will soon weave new spider webs again. However, this incident at least made up for the rift between them caused by the fly incident to some extent. Secondly, when dealing with lizards, the three of them were completely in a game mentality, teasing and provoking the lizards. After all, as a dragonfly, it was undoubtedly a far-fetched idea to cause real harm to the lizard, but it was still possible to play and prank it. No mistake, one post, one content, 1 6 to 9 book, 1 bar. No, one time, they saw a silly lizard trying to sneak attack them while they were sleeping, so Su-san decided to lead everyone to have a good time with this guy. She let Hot Girl land on the leaves next to the lizard when it was not paying attention, and when it turned around to catch Hot Girl would immediately get up and fly away. At the same time, when the lizard was paying attention to Hot Girl, Su-san let Little Sweet Girl land on another leaf next to the lizard, and when the lizard turned around to deal with Little Sweet Girl would also leave quickly like Hot Girl. After the two sisters got tired of playing this game of teasing the lizard, Su-san joined in and teased the lizard again. Su-san was even more daring than the two sisters. Twice, she even landed on the lizard's head for a very short time, making the lizard angry and blue in the face. Finally, when Su-san and the other two sisters were dealing with a mantis, they felt most relieved and satisfied. Su-san actually asked everyone to pick up the dead leaves that fell on the ground, and took this small dead leaf and flew to the top of a big mantis that was trying to sneak attack them, and used the dead leaf to beat the mantis from above, scaring the mantis so much that it ran away in panic. Looking at the mantis's embarrassed appearance when it ran away, the three sisters couldn't help but laugh happily. Chapter 360 Teasing the Frog. After playing for a few days, the three sisters felt that it was boring to hang around the small pond all the time, so they decided to leave here and go to the distant mountains and rivers. Of course, dragonflies cannot live without water, otherwise, there would be no saying of dragonflies skimming the water. Therefore, they tried their best to find places with water sources to play. The key to the so-called sightseeing lies in the word water. After several days of travel, the three sisters came to a small river and a big waterfall. When they came to this surging waterfall with thundering water, they all seemed extremely excited, and Su-san was no exception. She couldn't remember how many lifetimes she had not seen a waterfall, especially a waterfall as big as this one, but she had never seen one. Everyone was ecstatic to play by the small river under the waterfall. Although they were not pregnant yet and did not need to lay eggs, they all played the dragonfly's signature action, dragonfly skimming the water. Susan also tried dragonfly skimming the water with them, and felt that playing this game under the waterfall was like taking a cold shower for humans, which was extremely refreshing and comfortable. At this time, a big frog jumped out from the weeds on the shore. Seeing the three dragonfly sisters playing happily under the waterfall, it couldn't help but shouting excitedly, "Quack, quack, 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 quack." Seeing this, Hot Girl laughed and asked Susan jokingly, "Sister Susan, do you know what the big frog is calling?" Although this was actually just a joke that Hot Girl said on a whim, Susan believed it and listened carefully. After a while, Susan said seriously, "Big dragonflies, what are you doing? Can you fly to me? I miss you so much." Hot Girl couldn't help but staring at Susan when she heard it, and said with a stammer, "Did it really say that, or do you really understand what the frog said?" "Sister, you are not teasing me, are you?" "Who is teasing you? What do you have nothing to do?" Susan said without any care, "It really said that." "Don't talk about what the frog said, I understand what many animals and insects say." "Sister Susan, when did you start bragging without blushing or beating your heart?" Hot Girl looked completely unconvinced. "You said you knew the language of flies, I was already very surprised. You are bragging that you can also know the language of frogs, and even many animals and insects. How can I believe you? Aren't you a god? Believe it or not, anyway, I have translated what this frog said for you. You can do whatever you want," Susan said a little angrily. "Sister Susan, you really didn't brag? Well, as long as you can find a way to make this frog raise its two front paws above its head, I will believe you." Seeing that Susan looked confident, Hot Girl decided to test her. "This is easy." As soon as he finished speaking, Susan flew to the frog, hovered above its head 1 meter away, and said to the frog, "Quack, quack, quack. Hello, Prince Frog. Why are you croaking here alone? As long as you raise your hands above your head, we will fly to you and even land on your head. How about it?" "Quack, ah. Really? That's great." The frog was overjoyed when he heard that there was such a good thing. He raised his two front paws above his head and even asked proudly, "Is this okay? Is it high enough?" The Hot Girl flying not far behind Susan was stunned by the sight of the frog actually obeying Susan's words and raising his hands obediently. His mind went blank and he didn't know what to say. At this time, the sweet girl who was playing dragonfly skimming the water at the splashing water under the waterfall saw that the two of them were hovering in the air and confronting a big frog squatting on the bank of the stream. The frog actually raised its two front paws in a very strange way. She couldn't help but feel very strange, so she flew to Susan and asked, "Big sister, what are you doing? You must not get close to this guy. It is one of our main natural enemies and is very dangerous." "Third sister, do you think it's strange? Sister Susan can actually make this frog raise its hands obediently. I still don't understand what magic she cast to make this big frog so obedient," Hot Girl explained before Susan spoke. "Ah, is this true? Second sister, are you sure you are not kidding, and that the eldest sister really has such magical powers?" Sweet Girl thought she was dreaming and didn't believe it at all. "Don't say it, you two. I really understand the language of various animals. I just encouraged the frog to do this. Second sister, now you should believe what I said, right?" Susan said a little proudly. "Ah, this is true. No wonder Sister Susan can be our eldest sister. It seems that she is really capable," Sweet Girl said with stars in her eyes, looking at Susan. Hot Girl felt very uncomfortable when she heard this, but she had to admit that Susan was so amazing. Who said Susan was so amazing? She could speak many kinds of animal and insect languages. This ability is not to be underestimated. How great a talent is needed to do this? Is Susan really a fairy, or a fairy who has come down to Earth? It must be a fairy who has come down to Earth, and accidentally got reborn into the wrong body and became a small female dragonfly. This is definitely the case. The more Hot Girl thought about it, the more she felt that this might be the case. So not long after, her eyes looking at Susan were also filled with countless stars. In short, from then on, Susan had two die-hard fans. Whatever Susan asked them to do, they would definitely do it without saying a word, and they would do it happily, as if they could get money by doing what Susan asked them to do. Now, the big frog saw that he had held his hand above his head for a long time, but no dragonfly flew to him. He could not help but ask Susan anxiously, "Hey, big dragonfly, why don't you keep your word? I have listened to you and held my hand above my head for a long time. My hand is sore. Why haven't any of you flown to me yet? Are you a big liar with sweet words?" Susan couldn't help laughing when he heard it. He laughed for a long time before he said to the frog, "You can put your hand down now. We were just teasing you just now. Please don't take it seriously. You are so funny and interesting. Ha ha, ha ha, ha 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 ha." After that, he couldn't help laughing again. When the frog saw that Susan was actually teasing it, it could not help but get angry and its face turned blue. It pointed its right front paw at Susan and her two sisters and angrily scolded them, "Don't be too happy too soon, you dragonflies. One day, I will eat you all. Sooner or later, you will be my meal." Humph! Seeing this guy so arrogant, Susan could not help but get furious. He immediately fought back in frog language, "Don't be so arrogant. Maybe tomorrow you will be eaten by a poisonous snake or a small crocodile. Your doomsday is not far away." Chapter 361, Take Me as Your Teacher. The frog said angrily, "I won't talk to you anymore. You are a monster. A dragonfly can actually speak our language. I won't stand up to you." Quack, 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 quack. As soon as he finished speaking, he jumped into the river to take a bath. The three sisters saw the frog running away like a defeated rooster, and they all laughed at the same time. Afterwards, at Susan's suggestion, everyone stayed near the waterfall temporarily to conduct further investigation and exploration here, and at the same time enjoy the beautiful scenery of nature. Soon, they found that there were not only many rare animals, such as pangolins, anteaters, platypuses, mandarin ducks and cranes, but also many kinds of insects, such as various spotted butterflies, various mosquitoes and flies, various grasshoppers and locusts, stick insects, caterpillars, crickets, ladybugs, iron bulls, spiders and mantises, etc., especially mantises, which were a bit scary. Not only were they big, but they could also fly, and even fly very high and far, posing a great danger to dragonflies of all sizes. Seeing this, the three sisters Susan were not scared away by this flying mantis, but instead aroused their interest in fighting it. So, Susan asked everyone to find small dead branches that fell on the ground, find a way to remove the dead leaves on them, pick up these small and light dead branches as sticks, fly into the air, and look for those flying mantises to fight. At first, those arrogant flying mantises didn't take Susan and her sisters seriously, thinking that they were just big dragonflies and didn't have any great abilities. However, after they were beaten up by Susan and her sisters, they immediately came to their senses and became cautious. They no longer dared to underestimate them. Susan saw that these flying mantises had become much more honest, so she became more confident and wanted to chat with them and ask them how the dragonfly stick tasted. At this moment, they suddenly ran into a flying mantis that dared to show off in front of them. It was probably a greenhorn who had not tasted the stick in the hands of Susan and her sisters. So Susan gave it a warning first, and hid it head on. It was so scared that it peed on the spot and turned around and ran back. Of course, the three sisters Susan would not let this guy go so easily, so they picked up the thin sticks made of dead branches and chased after it. Since the dragonflies like Susan were as light as a swallow, and their thin wings were large and powerful, they caught up with this guy in one go, and then flew over its head, aimed at its small head, and hit it hard, knocking it unconscious. Afterwards, Susan picked up the mantis that had fainted, flew to the dense and overlapping leaves of a big tree, fixed it so that it would not fall under the tree, and then waited for this guy to wake up. When the sun was about to set, this guy finally woke up. As soon as he raised his head, he saw three lame dragonflies holding thin sticks waiting around him. He couldn't help but tremble all over, and his mouth was chirping, and no one knew what he was saying. Seeing this, Susan asked in mantis language, "Hey, boy, don't be afraid. We don't want to kill you today. We just want to ask you some questions." You, a big dragonfly, can speak our mantis language. It's really weird. Am I dreaming? The mantis said with disbelief, turning its little head. You are not dreaming. This is true. I do understand the language of you mantises, Susan said in a calm and clear tone. In fact, Not only mantis language, I can also speak grasshopper language, locust language, spider language, bee language, frog language, bird language and other languages. You don't have to look at me strangely, because I am a language master. Ah. Really, you are really a language master. Then I surrender to you. I am willing to surrender, willing to serve you, and willing to do anything for you, as long as you can let me learn the language of grasshoppers and locusts. The mantis suddenly became very polite. Oh. I was wondering, how come you are so well behaved all of a sudden? It turns out you have some intentions towards me. Just like a profiteer, you really won't get up early without profit, Su-san sighed. Master, please don't despise me and accept me as your apprentice, Mantis said eagerly and bowed to Su-san with his knife. Sisters, this guy actually wants to worship me as his master and learn the language of grasshoppers and locusts. Su-san turned around and asked Hot Girl and Sweet Girl, what do you think? Should I accept this guy who holds double knives all day long as my apprentice? That's up to you. Sister Su-san, I won't express my opinion, Hot Girl abstained. Big sister, this is not good. This guy is always walking around us with 2 deadly knives. I'm worried that if he gets upset one day, he'll cut our throats one by one. That would be a disaster for us. Therefore, I strongly disagree with you taking him as your apprentice. It's really scary anyway, little sweetie objected firmly. Little sister, it's not as serious as you said, Su-san patiently explained, we only teach him 2 hours of language courses every day, and it's in broad daylight. The rest of the time will be separated from him. What's more, we don't sleep with him. Are you relieved? That's more like it. Just now, big sister, you said you wanted to take him as your apprentice. I thought you were going to let him walk around us all day. But I was scared, little sweetie said fearfully. After finishing the work of little sweet girl, Su-san said to this guy in mantis language, hey, kid, since you want to take me as your master, you should at least tell me your name. When Mantis heard that Su-san agreed to take him as a disciple, he could not help but be overjoyed, and hurriedly bowed with double swords, mantis swords, and said, thank you, master. My name is Shuadeo-wan. But I don't know your master's name. No mistake, 1 poem, 1 post, 1 content, 1 book, 1 forum, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 forum. Your name is too special, isn't it? It sounds scary. Su-san was not satisfied with the name and decided to change it. Master, let me change it for you. How about changing it to Little Ball? I chose this name myself. I have never seen my parents since I was born. I am an orphan. Now that you can name me, I am grateful. But I am a little confused as to why you named me Little Ball instead of Rowanzi. In fact, I have liked eating meat since I was a child. If you named me Rowanzi, I would be even happier, Mantis said seriously. What Rowanzi? Whatever name you are given by your master is the name. You are not allowed to object. You can only accept it. Otherwise, I will not accept you as my disciple. Su-san angrily taught Mantis a lesson. Yes, master is right. Now I am Little Ball. I will pay my respects to you now. After that, he bowed to Su-san 3 times honestly. Chapter 362 Encountering a Strange Bird. My dear disciple, remember, from today on, come to me every day after the sun rises high to learn the language. Unless it rains heavily, do not miss the class, Su-san taught the mantis little Maruko. Then master, let's start now. Excuse me, how does the grasshopper say I want to sleep? Little Maruko seized the opportunity to learn the grasshopper and locust language. In this way, Su-san actually became the language teacher of one of the natural enemies of dragonflies, the mantis, and one was willing to teach and the other was willing to learn, which was really in line with the style. Although there were only 2 hours of teaching every day, the teaching effect was very good. In addition, the mantis little Maruko was smart and studious, and the learning progress was rapid. It only took 10 days for little Maruko to basically master the basic daily language of grasshoppers and locusts. From then on, the mantis little Maruko knew the basic life language of grasshoppers and locusts and knew their living conditions very well. It was easier for her to catch them, and she no longer had to worry about food and drink. One day, the 3 sisters Su-san came to a dense forest near the waterfall and found many red and white common dragonflies. They were about half the size of Su-san's laying dragonflies. These dragonflies were happily catching mosquitoes, moths and ladybugs in the forest. Suddenly, a few very strange-looking birds flew out from the dark of the forest. These birds were about twice as big as the group of red and white dragonflies, and were about the same size as Susan and her sisters. However, what surprised Susan and her sisters was that these birds were actually specialized in catching red and white dragonflies for food. Seeing this, Hot Girl could not help but get furious, and immediately said to Susan, "Sister Susan, should we help this group of red and white dragonflies defeat and drive away these hateful birds?" Susan thought for a while and said, "Don't you think this is also a kind of food chain or a biological balance? Dragonflies eat mosquitoes, and birds eat dragonflies. Why should we break this balance? What kind of bullshit balance is this? I think it's just bullying the weak and slaughtering us dragonflies. We should uphold justice for our kind and help the weak," Hot Girl said indignantly. "Big sister, I also think that second sister is right. We should help this group of poor dragonflies drive away these little demons." Sweet Girl sympathized with this group of red and white dragonflies and stood on the side of Hot Girl without hesitation. "Sisters, do you think we can defeat these little demons? We may not be stronger than them with our individual strength, not to mention that there are 5 or 6 of them now, and their numbers are absolutely superior, not to mention that they may have more accomplices nearby. If we fight them, they may summon more little demons to surround us. At that time, it will not be a question of whether we can defeat them, but whether we can escape. Have you two considered these factors?" Susan analyzed very calmly. What should we do?" Sweet Girl couldn't help but feel scared when she heard Susan say this. "Yes, Sister Susan, what do you think we should do? Otherwise, let's just run away now." The Hot Girl, who was always very courageous and did things in a hurry, also backed down. "There's no need for you two to be so scared, right?" Susan first steadied himself, then gave an order. "Well, let's each go find a long and strong dry branch on the ground to prepare for the battle. I'll go up and argue with them later. Whether to fight or flee, you two follow my orders." So everyone took action immediately and went under the tree to find a dry branch that suited them. Just when Susan and her 2 sisters were looking for dry branches, the strange birds that hunted dragonflies had already noticed Susan and her sisters. One of the black-headed strange birds asked the other white-headed strange bird, "Boss, I just noticed 3 big dragonflies appeared over there. Should we go and hunt these 3 big dragonflies? I think the meat of these big dragonflies must be more delicious. I have never eaten such big dragonflies. Just thinking about it makes me drool." The white-headed strange bird responded, "You only know how to eat all day long, you foodie. Don't you even look at what's going on? Maybe these big dragonflies have some abilities that we don't know about? Then won't we be not catching the fox but getting into trouble?" Are these 3 big dragonflies all sluts?" the black-headed strange bird asked in surprise. "Did I say they are sluts? You idiot. I was just making an analogy. Don't you understand?" the white-headed strange bird scolded angrily. "Boss, you've taught me that I really don't like to think. So what should we do with the 3 of them now?" the black-headed strange bird had to ask for advice. "Oh no. Boss, those big dragonflies picked up a dry branch from the ground and flew towards us." A pock-marked-headed strange bird flew over to report. "Boss, what are they trying to do? I've never heard of dragonflies eating dry branches." "What does this mean?" the black-headed strange bird asked in confusion. "Stupid, of course they won't eat dry branches, but they want to use dry branches to fight us," the white-headed strange bird judged sensitively. These big dragonflies actually use dry branches to fight with us. Did I hear it right?" the black-headed strange bird was even more confused. "I think my judgment should be correct. Because I have seen monkeys use large branches to fight other animals. And these big dragonflies use thin branches. The principle is roughly the same," the white-headed strange bird reasoned cleverly. "No mistakes in one poem, one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1/6, 1/9, one book, one forum, one look." While these strange birds were talking, the 3 Sioux sisters had already flown to a place 2 meters in front of them and stopped, hovering in the air, confronting the strange birds that were also hovering in the air. Susan was heard speaking a few words to these strange birds in one kind of bird language. Seeing that these birds had no response, he repeated several times in other bird languages, until Susan spoke to them in the bird language of the white-headed bird. "What kind of birds are you? Why are you killing the red and white dragonflies here, at this time?" the white-headed strange bird said. I didn't expect that a big dragonfly like you could speak the language of us birds. It seems that you are not ordinary people. We are the old strange birds, A branch of the white-headed bird. Where on earth are you big dragonflies from, and why are you interfering with our normal hunting activities? We are the lame big dragonflies over there by the big lake, and we are staying nearby temporarily. Because we saw you killing our kind, we are very angry and had to step forward to intervene. Now, I ask you to let the red and white dragonflies here go, and we can let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude to you. With a long and relatively strong dry branch in his hand, Su-san spoke with more confidence. Oh, you're so arrogant. Do you think we're afraid of you? Said the black-headed strange bird with an unconvinced look on its face. Chapter 363, Battle of Wisdom and Courage. Shut up and go away, the white-headed bird scolded it, then turned to Su-san and said, please calm down, big dragonfly, we can talk it out. In fact, it's not impossible for us to withdraw from here. But you have to give us a suitable reason. You need a reason? That's easy. Just say that your territory has been taken over by our lame dragonfly. Su-san casually found a reason for the white-headed bird. I'm afraid this is not appropriate. If we withdraw like this, who will believe it? The white-headed bird said with suppressed anger in his heart. Then what do you want? Su-san asked nonchalantly. How about we have a fight? I'll compete with you alone. If you win, we'll leave here immediately and never stay. If you lose, then I'll deal with all three of you. What do you think? Isn't this fair and reasonable? The white-headed strange bird wanted to see what ability Su-san had to dare to challenge it. It also wanted to understand how such a thin dry branch was danced in Su-san's hand, and wanted to experience the power of this dry branch. No problem, I'm happy to accompany you. However, I still want to modify your proposal a little bit. If I lose, I can do whatever you want, but you must let my two sisters go. Su-san bargained with the other party, and then turned to Hot Girl and Sweet Girl and said, wait, if I lose, you two should run for your lives. Unexpectedly, Hot Girl refused and said, Sister Su-san, you don't have to worry about our safety, just fight with all your heart. Yes, sister, just fight with all your heart, and we will take care of our safety ourselves. Sweet Girl said the same thing. At this time, the white-headed monster bird said to Su-san very arrogantly and proudly, since you are afraid, then surrender. This will save me from having to fight. If you lose, do you think your two companions can still escape from my palm? Stop talking nonsense. If you want to fight, just do it quickly. I'm not afraid of you, Su-san angrily hit back at the white-headed monster bird. Oh. I didn't expect you to want to die so badly. I won't be polite to you. As soon as the words fell, the white-headed bird swooped down, with a pair of eagle-like claws, one grabbing Su-san's head and the other grabbing the thin dry branch in Su-san's hand. The former was attack and the latter was defense. The purpose was to destroy the powerful weapon in Su-san's hand. It was a perfect plan. It happened in a flash. When the white-headed bird attacked Su-san, just an inch away from succeeding, Su-san suddenly flew into the air at lightning speed, barely avoiding the fierce attack of the white-headed bird, and then quickly swung the dry branch in his hand to hit the head of the white-headed bird with a trick of splitting Huashin Mountain with force. Unexpectedly, Su-san's quick and powerful attack was avoided by the white-headed monster bird by turning sideways. It seems that this guy is not easy to use lamp and has some skills, otherwise, he would not be the leader of these monster birds, let alone challenge Su-san and the stick in his hand. Su-san had just finished the first move and had not yet used the second move when the white-headed monster bird turned around and killed her. But this time, it attacked Su-san's wings. At this moment, the stick in Su-san's hand had hid her under her body because the first move missed. Before she could retract it, the trick was already used up. The attack launched by the white-headed monster bird made Su-san very passive, and the situation was extremely critical. If the wings were torn by the white-headed monster bird, Su-san would be in danger. But at the moment when Su-san was in danger, he suddenly rolled back 360 degrees, and the stick in his hand just hit the chin of the white-headed bird, causing it to scream in pain. After a successful attack, Su-san took advantage of the opponent's slight distraction due to the pain and used a sweeping the army move to hit the neck of the white-headed bird with a dry branch. However, this time the opponent reacted quickly, lowered his head, and dodged Su-san's heavy blow. At the critical moment, Su-san did not get discouraged, but continued to work hard. This time, he was extremely fast. Before the previous move was completed, he turned around and chopped diagonally, smashing the dry branch from top to bottom on the head of the white-headed bird, not giving the opponent a chance to breathe. This move caught the white-headed monster bird off guard. It just thought it had mastered Susan's attack rhythm, but unexpectedly, Susan attacked again so quickly. In a hurry, the white-headed monster bird could not dodge in time. Although its head avoided Susan's attack, its neck was hit hard and it almost fainted from the pain. Susan saw that this attack finally succeeded. Hit the opponent's chin just now was a coincidence and too light to count, and his morale was boosted. He immediately accelerated the rhythm and hit the opponent's head with a whirlwind speed. After a while, he knocked it unconscious and fell to the ground. Afterwards, Susan said to the other monster birds with a heroic spirit, "I won your bet, why don't you get out?" As soon as the voice fell, the accomplices of the white-headed monster bird who were watching the fight around were immediately scared and ran away. After driving away those strange birds, Susan said to the group of red and white dragonflies still flying around here and nearby, "Guys, we have driven away the strange birds that preyed on you. You should take the opportunity to escape. If it's too late, those strange birds will lead their large forces to kill us again. By then, I'm afraid we can't even protect ourselves, let alone you." Is this true? Did those strange birds that escaped really go to find their large forces? A white dragonfly asked doubtfully. "Based on my rich experience, it's probably true. You'd better leave here quickly, it may be too late if you leave later," Susan persuaded anxiously. "Just now, these strange birds didn't actually hurt us much. Most of them caught our companions for fun, and only occasionally ate one or two of our unlucky ones. Will they massacre us when their large forces come?" a red dragonfly asked in disbelief. "No mistakes in one poem, one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1619, one book, one forum, one look. That's for sure. When their large army arrives, they will definitely kill you. Just now, they didn't kill you because they didn't have enough manpower to take you all down. They were afraid that they would scare you all away, so they didn't dare to do it. Don't be fooled by their illusion. Run away quickly. They are a group of vicious executioners. Once they surround you here, they will not show mercy to you," Susan persuaded again earnestly. Are they really that scary? If it's really like what this big dragonfly sister said, then we should run away quickly. I don't want to lose my life here," another white dragonfly interrupted. Suddenly, the sweet girl who was hovering on the top of the tree and keeping watch shouted, "Oh no, they are coming. There's a large crowd of them. Everyone, run." Chapter 364 Beautiful Paradise. When the dragonflies heard that those scary dragonfly-eating birds were coming again, and they were so dense that they immediately fled in all directions. In the blink of an eye, they fled away completely. However, after the group of red and white dragonflies had all fled, little Sweetie actually flew down from the treetop in a sneaky way and said to Susan with a smile, "Big sister, how about my trick? It's quite useful, isn't it? You are just a little girl with so many tricks. But then again, it's really good. I spent so much time talking, but it's not as effective as your shouting," Susan praised her sincerely. "Yes, little sister, you are getting smarter and smarter now. You are really a smart little ghost. I am afraid that I will be fooled by her in the future." Hot Girl also exaggerated and talked about little Sweetie. "How dare I? As long as the two sisters don't think I'm stupid, I will be happy." Little Sweetie actually became modest. "Sister Susan, I think we can't linger here any longer, let's leave here quickly," Hot Girl urged impatiently. "Second sister is right, we can't stay here for long. I'll fly to the top of the tree first to see if the large group of strange birds has arrived. You two wait for me." After Susan finished speaking, she flew to the top of the highest tree nearby in the blink of an eye. Not long after she flew to the top of the tree, she heard Susan shouting, "Everyone run, the large group of strange birds is really coming this time." "Sister, is this true? I didn't see any strange birds just now, I was joking with everyone that time." "You are not trying to scare us too, are you?" Sweet Girl asked in disbelief. "Who is joking with you two? I'm telling the truth." "When have you ever seen me joking with you two?" Susan said anxiously. Just when the sweet girl was doubtful and the hot girl was also half believing, suddenly, a familiar and unique strange bird voice came from afar. "Everyone, hurry up and chase them. Those big dragonflies seem to be still there. Whoever catches them will be rewarded." Then, another voice came, "Stop, don't run." Suddenly, Susan was quick-witted and ordered, "Everyone, fly to the sky quickly. The higher you fly, the safer it is." I guess the strange birds can't fly very high." As soon as the voice fell, the three sisters of Lei Meng Dragonfly, led by Susan, tried their best to fly to the sky desperately. The strange changes of Susan and other dragonflies actually made the leader of the strange birds who were chasing them look up and look at them rising higher and higher. He was stunned and sighed. Just as Susan guessed, this group of strange birds almost became the kings of the sky at low altitudes. Not only were they extremely fast, but they could also hover in the air like dragonflies. However, they were not good at climbing high, so they could only watch Susan and her sisters leave helplessly. After flying to a certain height, they found that the group of strange birds did not catch up, so Susan told everyone not to climb higher. Then they chose a direction and flew southwest. Soon they were out of sight of the strange birds and completely safe. After several days of hard flying, when the sun was setting in the afternoon, the three dragonfly sisters arrived at a beautiful lake wetland, where flowers were everywhere, various animals and insects were numerous, and there were also many birds and birds. There were birds singing and flowers everywhere. The lake is as flat as a mirror, reflecting the sky and the willows on the shore. The lake makes the air moist and pleasantly cool. White swans, egrets, wild ducks and mandarin ducks float on the lake. When the breeze ripples the lake, the colors on the waterfowl become an illusory mass, as if the colors are scattered in the green water. When the wind is gone and the water is calm, the blurred white becomes the reflection of various animals wandering on the lake with clear outlines. This makes the lake full of a kind of tranquil and peaceful beauty. The scenery on the wetland near the lake seems to be completely different, with activities and chatter everywhere, the sound of birds pecking at oak trees, the sound of animals walking, eating grass and chewing fruit cores, the sound of waves, the humming of grass insects, the buzzing of bees, the flying of butterflies, the meowing of wild sheep, and the twittering of partridges make the wilderness full of gentleness and wild harmony. Whenever there was a gust of wind, this desolate place would come alive, shaking these floating objects, mixing these white, blue, green, and pink clusters of flowers, blending various colors, and gathering various sounds. Then, this harmony would come from all directions, and such a wonderful scene would appear before our eyes, which was the pure virgin land of nature that no human had set foot on. Looking at this wonderful scene before our eyes, Susan and other sisters could not help but feel a lot of emotion. Their hearts were surging, and they were very excited. Then, they flew over, blended in, and also came to enjoy the endless fun brought by nature. At this time, several little bees flew to the flowers near Susan and her two sisters, collecting nectar and humming a little song. I am a little bee, flying to the flowers. I am busy collecting nectar every day and have no time to play. Although my life is hard, I am happy. It's not that I'm stupid, it's just that I'm used to it. I am a little bee, and life is like this. After a while, a little white rabbit jumped out from the grass. It hopped to Susan's side, stared at Susan and her two sisters with its red rabbit eyes wide open, as if it thought the three big dragonflies looked very strange. Seeing this, Susan said to the little white rabbit in rabbit language, "Little white rabbit, hello. Where are you from? What do you want to do?" The little white rabbit looked at Susan in shock and stammered, Wow, this is incredible. You, a big dragonfly, can actually speak our rabbit language. Are you a big white rabbit, little white rabbit? Why do you think I am a big white rabbit?" Susan asked, puzzled. "Because big white rabbits may die sometimes, and when big white rabbits die, they will become big dragonflies," the little white rabbit explained. "Little white rabbit, your idea is very interesting. What if I am not a big white rabbit? What should you do?" Susan teased the little white rabbit. "Ah, you are really not a big white rabbit? Then you must be a monster." "If you are a monster, I won't play with you," the little white rabbit replied. "If you don't play with me, I will be very sad. If I am sad, I will die. Don't you have any pity for me?" Susan pretended to be pitiful. "Ah, you will really die. Well, then, I will play with you," the little white rabbit said with some emotion. "My name is Sister Susan, dear little white rabbit." "What is your name?" Susan said sincerely. "My name is Not Playing in Vain, which is the name my mother gave me," the little white rabbit answered innocently. "Oh, interesting. Why did your mother give you such a name?" Susan asked with a little curiosity. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365, Adventures in the Wetland. The little white rabbit answered in detail. My mother said that it is natural for children to like playing, but they can't just play for the sake of playing. They have to learn something useful from playing, so she named me Not Playing in Vain. Susan sighed. I didn't expect that your mother is really a knowledgeable and insightful mother. Of course, among all the rabbits in our family, my mother has the highest prestige. Even my father, grandfather and grandmother listen to her, the little white rabbit said proudly. Little white rabbit, why is your mother the most prestigious? Come and tell Sister Susan, Susan asked curiously. She not only manages the eating and sleeping of all the rabbits in our family, but also manages our poop and pee, the little white rabbit said seriously. Then how does she arrange the life of your family? Susan asked again. She eats and sleeps in the cleanest, most spacious, warmest and most comfortable place in our house, while the other members of our family eat and sleep together. It's the same when she poops and pees. She goes to the clean and hygienic high place alone, while the other members of our family all stay in the low place to poop and pee together and smell the stench together, the little white rabbit said without reservation. Ah. Then are the other members of your family willing to accept your mother's living arrangement? Susan asked with a dropped jaw. You have to accept it even if you don't want to, because she is the biggest and most anticipated white rabbit in our family, and the other members of our family are as thin as grasshoppers. They can't beat our mother together, so we can only accept her wise leadership, the little white rabbit said helplessly. Then under the wise leadership of your mother, your family must do something else every day besides eating, drinking, pooping, urinating and sleeping. What do you do? Can you tell Sister Susan about it? Susan asked again. Basically, what we do every day is to find food, such as pulling radishes, digging bamboo shoots and purple sweet potatoes, etc. Our whole family does it, but our mommy sits there and gives blind instructions, not doing any work, said the little white rabbit. Why do you say your mommy gives blind instructions? Susan asked curiously. Because she often gives wrong instructions, causing us all to work in vain. For example, some radishes grow very deep and cannot be pulled out casually. We have to dig up the surrounding soil before pulling out the radishes, but she insists that we pull out the radishes as soon as we see them, and as a result, we only pull out the radish leaves but not the radishes. And when we were looking for purple sweet potatoes and bamboo shoots, she made us all go through a lot of unnecessary troubles, and we haven't found any purple sweet potatoes or bamboo shoots yet, the little white rabbit complained one by one like pouring out bitter water. Since your mommy is so powerful, are you sneaking out to play now? Will your mommy punish you? Susan was a little worried about the little white rabbit. I didn't sneak out to play today. My mommy was sick these 2 days, so I came out to pick herbs for her. I'm not here to play around, the little white rabbit said frankly. What herbs are you picking? Why are you the only one out to pick herbs? Aren't they all out to pick herbs? Susan asked. Of course Grandpa and Grandma won't come out. They can't run anymore and stay at home to do things. The other family members are out to pick herbs. However, they each go to a different place to pick herbs, and I happen to be assigned to pick herbs here, the little white rabbit explained. What herbs are they? Do you know them? Susan asked again. I know them. My dad took me to pick them last time. They were isidus root and honeysuckle, the little white rabbit said. When Susan heard this, she quickly looked around and soon found the 2 medicinal herbs. So she said to the little white rabbit, look at that area. Are the flowers and plants there the herbs you need? The little white rabbit quickly looked at the place Susan pointed and said with surprise, wow. It seems to be true. Thank you, Sister Susan. I will go over and collect them now. As soon as she finished speaking, she jumped over and collected the herbs she needed. Susan witnessed the little white rabbit collecting herbs and then leaving. The 2 dragonfly sisters beside her hot girl and sweet girl were full of curiosity about Susan and the little white rabbit's chat, so they asked Susan what she and the little white rabbit talked about. Susan told her everything that happened just now, and the 2 sisters couldn't help but marvel. Soon, Susan discovered that there were many colorful grasshoppers about the size of flies. The 3 sisters were very surprised. With a command, a competition between the big dragonflies of Lei Meng and the small grasshoppers began. Flying back and forth, chasing each other, and soon, Susan caught 15, Sweet Girl caught 21, and Hot Girl killed 28. The 3 big dragonflies were all full of oil and burped. After eating and drinking, Susan and her sisters flew from the wetland to the lake to watch the performances of waterfowl such as white swans, egrets, wild ducks and mandarin ducks on the lake. At this time, there happened to be 3 white swans gathered on the lake, but they did not live in harmony like the 3 dragonfly sisters. They were arguing fiercely, and the quack-quack screams resounded around the lake. Susan listened attentively and was surprised. It turns out that this is a story about a third party interfering with the swan family. The white swan with the longest neck, the youngest and the most beautiful, is the third party. The skinny and handsome male white swan is the cheating party who is having an affair with her, and the chubby female white swan is naturally the victim of this incident. The victim fat swan said, "Since you don't want this home anymore, why do you want to come back?" The cheating party said, "I can come back if I want to. This is also my home, not your home alone." The victim said, "Since you still care about this home, why do you bring this little goblin back to make me angry?" No mistakes in one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1619. The cheater said, "I thought she would forgive me generously and get along with my mistress." The victim said, "How dare you say that? Don't you think you are too shameless?" The cheater said, "I don't think there is anything wrong with that. Look how young and beautiful she is, and she is a dancer in Swan Lake. You just eat and drink all day long and are as fat as a ball." The victim said, "You are a heartless guy, despicable and shameless. Get out of here, get out of here, I don't want to see you again." The cheater said, "Just go. As if no one wants to be with you. I brought her back to see you because of our relationship as husband and wife. Since you don't appreciate it, there is nothing to say. From now on, you can take care of yourself." As soon as the words fell, the cheater took the third party and flapped its wings and flew away, and soon disappeared into the air. There happened to be a pair of mandarin ducks about 4 or 5 meters away from the female swan. They witnessed the entire process of the white swan family breaking up, and could not help but sigh and lament. Chapter 366, Conversation between husband and wife. The female mandarin duck said to her husband, "Old man, did you see what happened just now?" The male mandarin duck pretended to be confused and asked, "Honey, what are you talking about? You are not blaming me for not finding your favorite red-headed shrimps for you again, are you?" The female mandarin duck said dissatisfiedly, "What red-headed shrimps? Are you pretending to be confused with me on purpose? Do you want to be scolded again?" The male mandarin duck quickly apologized, "Please calm down, dear. I really don't know what you are talking about. Please tell me clearly." The female mandarin duck sighed, shook her head, and then softened her tone and said, "I really don't know. You are confused because of old age, or just pretending to be confused? How come you really don't know anything about what happened in the white swan's house next door just now?" "Wife, you really wronged me," the male mandarin duck said seriously. "I was just looking around for the red-headed shrimps for you. How should I know about the trivial things in the white swan's house next door?" "What is trivial things?" "That's a huge event," the female mandarin duck said angrily. "Ah, a huge event just happened here?" the male mandarin duck asked in disbelief. "Wife, don't scare me. How come I can't feel anything at all?" "Hey, you are such an idiot," the female mandarin duck cursed angrily. "A good family was torn apart by a vixen. Do you think this is a huge event for a family that was originally complete and stable?" This seems to be a big event," the male mandarin duck said hesitantly. "What do you mean by seems to be?" "This is a big event, and it is a huge event," the female mandarin duck said firmly and affirmatively. "Then how do you know what happened in the white swan's house next door?" "You don't understand swan language?" the male mandarin duck asked puzzledly. "Of course I know. I will observe their expressions and behaviors when they speak. This is called observing words and reading people's expressions. Do you understand?" The female mandarin duck took the opportunity to brag. "My dear, you are really good. You can understand what someone means even if you don't understand the language. I find that you are becoming more and more amazing. I, your husband, am willing to admit defeat." The male mandarin duck took the opportunity to flatter her. "That's more like it. You have to learn from me in the future, learn to read the words and read the expressions, and serve me better." The female mandarin duck was already flattered and lost. "Yes, husband, I will find you some red-headed shrimps right away," the male mandarin duck said hurriedly. "Stupid, why do you always talk about red-headed shrimps? Did I ask you to find some red-headed shrimps?" The female mandarin duck scolded her with a bit of disappointment. "No, but I know that you have always loved to eat red-headed shrimps, and I also want to learn to read the words and read the expressions, The male Mandarin duck explained hurriedly. You call this learning to read the words and read the expressions? Don't you see that I have no appetite today? The female Mandarin duck rolled her eyes at the male Mandarin duck. Ah. Wife, what's wrong? Why do you have no appetite today? Did you catch a cold or get sick? The male Mandarin duck asked in confusion. You are really stupid. Didn't you see that I have been pissed off by the little vixen next door? The female Mandarin duck had to tell the whole story. Wife, this is what you are wrong about. To put it bluntly, this is called eating salty radishes and worrying about nothing. What's happening next door is none of your business, the male Mandarin duck said in great confusion. Do you really not understand, or are you pretending not to understand? Didn't you see that the fat sister-in-law next door is so pitiful? She used to be so beautiful and charming. Since her husband cheated on her, he has not returned home all day, causing her to eat desperately, and as a result, she has become fat. This little vixen is really harmful to people, the female Mandarin duck said with deep sympathy. The one next door is fat, why do you blame the little swan? Isn't this nonsense? The male Mandarin duck defended the third-party little swan. You men don't understand women at all. Whenever women are unhappy, they like to eat a lot. That's why all the fat women in the world are caused by men, the female Mandarin duck explained indignantly. What kind of logic is this? Are all women's unhappiness caused by men? The male Mandarin duck couldn't help but defend men. Of course, although not all women's unhappiness is caused by men, only women's unhappiness caused by men will make women eat a lot, and those unhappiness not caused by men will not make women eat a lot. Do you understand? Stupid, the female Mandarin duck said tirelessly. Then why do women eat a lot when they are unhappy because of men? The male Mandarin duck still didn't understand and asked. You are such a fool. If a woman is mad at a man, how can she still be in the mood to work? If she is not in the mood to work, she can only eat and enjoy her food. However, she will become addicted to eating and can't stop, so she will get fat. Now, you should understand, right? The female Mandarin duck explained in detail again. Wife, how do you know so much? Has there ever been a man who made you unhappy and made you eat a lot? The male Mandarin duck couldn't help but imagine. Get lost. You have become smarter this time? But I tell you solemnly that you are wrong. No one has ever made me eat a lot. I am just good at guessing other people's thoughts, the female Mandarin duck defended. Wife, I didn't expect that you are also a psychoanalyst. It's amazing. Your husband admires you more and more. The male Mandarin duck immediately gave her a fragrant flattery. Now you know my ability, right? Marrying me is the greatest blessing of your life, so you should be happy. The female Mandarin duck also took the opportunity to brag about herself. My dear wife, you are so right. You are the greatest wealth of my life. You are my star, no, my sun. The male Mandarin duck kept flattering her. Hey, it's strange, why haven't we heard of anyone in our Mandarin duck family cheating or being a mistress? But the white swan family is always full of scandals, frequent cheating, and unstable families? Why do you think this is? The female Mandarin duck asked puzzledly. That's because there are too few model husbands like me in the white swan family. They are all playboys who are extremely stuffy, and there are few handsome men like me who are pure and flawless. The male Mandarin duck took the opportunity to brag about himself. Ah, I just realized, when did you learn to brag about yourself? The female Mandarin duck stared at the male Mandarin duck with wide eyes in surprise and asked. My dear wife, I just learned this from you. People always say that the power of example is infinite. I am just applying what I have learned, the male Mandarin duck explained hastily. You old rascal, why didn't I think that I would have a good apprentice without paying attention? The female Mandarin duck couldn't help but laugh at herself. Chapter 367, Interesting. The female Mandarin duck smiled and said, Well, why do I suddenly feel a little hungry? Go and find me some red-headed shrimps. Well, let me go with you to find them. I can eat a big fish now, the male Mandarin duck asked puzzledly. Wife, I'm not angry with you, please don't eat so much. I swear to God, I definitely didn't go out to find a mistress. The female Mandarin duck couldn't help laughing. Ha ha, you idiot, what are you thinking about? I'm just a little hungry, why would I eat so much? You really think too much? The male Mandarin duck asked again. Then why did you say you could eat a big fish just now? The female Mandarin duck said with a smile. I was just describing it. I was just describing that I was hungrier. Do you understand? Silly, the male Mandarin duck breathed a sigh of relief and said, So you were describing it? I thought you suspected that I was cheating on you. The female mandarin duck asked, half in amusement and half in sarcasm. "Are you guilty in thinking about cheating on you?" The male mandarin duck quickly said flatteringly, "Wife, you are wronging me. With you here, I have been so happy that I don't have time to think about anything else." The female mandarin duck said with satisfaction, "That's good, I am relieved. Husband, should we go find something to eat now? I am so hungry." The male mandarin duck said happily, "Okay, wife, let's go now." As soon as the voice fell, he accompanied the female mandarin duck to swim towards the shallow water area where there was abundant food. Not long after the loving mandarin ducks left, a group of egrets flew down from the sky. This was an egret dance training class led by an egret dance coach. They came here specifically for closed training to prepare for the Intercontinental Bird Dance Competition to be held in 2 months, and they were the best selected from all the egrets. In a blink of an eye, these 20 or so egrets landed on the lake, began to rest and drink water, and then went to the shallow water area to find small fish and shrimps and other aquatic creatures to eat. After everyone had eaten and drunk enough, Coach Egret gathered everyone together and started dance training. At this time, the 3 sisters Susan were flying around the nearby lake, watching what was happening just now and now. Susan especially understood the conversation between the swan and the mandarin duck, and found it very interesting and fun. She almost didn't miss a word, and was as excited as watching a drama. Now that this group of egrets were preparing to do dance training here, it also aroused her curiosity. Then I heard Coach Bailu say, "Everyone, line up now and start counting." As soon as he finished speaking, I heard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 18, counting is over. Please give instructions. Good. It seems that everyone is here. Not bad, Coach Bailu said with satisfaction. Now everyone listen to my command, stand at attention, raise your head, and hold your chest high. Ready? First section, stretching exercises. Lift your right leg, straighten it, raise it above your head, then spread your wings, look to the left. That's right, just like that. Continue. Just when the 3 sisters Susan were watching the training of the Bailu dance training class with great interest, suddenly a group of wild ducks 50 meters away started to quarrel fiercely. So their sight was immediately attracted by the group of wild ducks. As the quarrel became more and more intense, Susan and other dragonflies could not help but fly over to watch the excitement. In fact, the group of wild ducks were quarreling over a swan egg, and they were divided into 2 factions, arguing. So what was going on? It turned out that there were 2 ducklings laying and incubating eggs next to each other, but they were wary of each other, afraid that the other would steal their eggs, so they were unwilling to leave alone. Today was the 3rd day of their incubation, but they had not hatched a single egg. But now they both felt that they were too hungry to bear it, so they agreed to leave together to find something to eat. But not long after the 2 ducklings left, a female swan flew down from the sky and laid a big swan egg right in the middle of the 2 nests of eggs they were incubating, and then flew away in a hurry. When the 2 ducklings came back after dinner, they couldn't help but see the swan egg that fell from the sky. They both wanted to take the swan egg that flew out of the sky for themselves, so they started to quarrel about it. However, the 2 ducklings each had a group of supporters, including family members and outside fans, so it didn't take long for the quarrel between the 2 wild ducks to evolve into a quarrel between 2 groups of wild ducks. Both sides insisted on their own opinions and were deadlocked, and finally even cursed at each other. Dozens of wild ducks gathered together and quarreled endlessly. It was indeed too noisy. Soon, many waterfowl and flying birds came to watch. Even the group of egrets who were doing dance training nearby were affected to varying degrees. It was really outrageous. Obviously, such a quarrel would not produce any results. Susan could not help but feel deeply disappointed and disgusted with a group of wild ducks. She did not expect that they would quarrel endlessly over such a small matter. It was really inappropriate. After understanding the whole story, Susan led the dragonfly sisters to leave the noisy and annoying place and go to visit somewhere else. Not long after, they left the lake and went to the wetland beside the lake because the scenery there was more interesting and attractive. After coming to the land, Susan found a very eye-catching place. There were many kinds of beautiful flowers in various shapes and forms, which attracted a large group of colorful butterflies to fly up and down and shuttle back and forth there. During this period, many bees were attracted to collect honey here. A perfect poem, a post, a content, a book, a forum. Looking at the pleasing and beautiful scenery, Susan and the other 3 dragonfly sisters couldn't help but feel cheerful. They followed the footsteps of the butterflies and flew to the flowers to start the romantic dragonfly flower viewing activity. Suddenly, a cute white kitten jumped out from the bushes not far away. It stared at the colorful butterflies flying in the sky with its sparkling yellow glass ball eyes. It couldn't help but be moved. It suddenly jumped up and wanted to catch the butterfly flying in front of it, but it was just a little bit short every time. However, it was not discouraged at all and kept jumping and catching. It was never tired of it. Maybe it didn't care whether it could catch it or not, but just wanted to play this jumping game. The cute behavior of this kitten made Susan and the three sisters laugh. Unexpectedly, here. Some animals are annoying, like the group of wild ducks, and some animals are lovable, like this kitten. There are many strange things in the world, even in this small lake wetland. But when Susan and the dragonfly were enjoying the flowers and the scenery, a fox suddenly jumped out from the grove on the other side and pounced directly on the kitten, who was having fun. Obviously, the kitten was in danger. Seeing this, Susan hurriedly said to the kitten in the language of cats, "Oh no, run. The natural enemy is coming." Chapter 368, Bully the Weak and Fear the Strong. At the moment when the sneak-attacking fox was about to pounce on the kitten, Susan rushed down from above and hit the fox's head, hitting the fox's eyes. The fox was startled and stopped its evil claws at the last moment, thus allowing the kitten to escape. At this time, the kitten finally realized that something was wrong and quickly rolled into the grass next to it, taking the opportunity to sneak into the dense grass and slip away. The sun was setting, and just as dusk was approaching, the beautiful scenery on the ground was picturesque, and the clouds in the sky were no less colorful. Suddenly, Susan saw countless red dragonflies flying out of the weeds next to the grove. They were much smaller than the lame-maned dragonfly, but they were busy flying around in the grass, catching the countless mosquitoes that would appear when night came. Seeing the group of red dragonflies enjoying their prey, Susan and other big dragonflies also felt a little hungry, so they also rushed into the weeds to catch those delicious little grasshoppers to eat. But at this moment, more than a dozen flying mantises flew out of the weeds, and their target was obviously the red dragonflies that were catching small mosquitoes. Of course, with Susan and her three sisters here, how could they tolerate these mantises to massacre their own species? Soon, Susan and the other three lame big dragonflies flew into the grove, picked up the dry branches that fell on the ground, removing the dead leaves, and went to fight against the mantis bandits who were catching and killing the little dragonflies. The mantises never dreamed that the lame dragonflies, which usually never meddle in other people's business, would suddenly attack them. In panic, they really couldn't figure out what went wrong or whether they were still sleeping. How could these lame dragonflies become so crazy overnight, chasing and beating them, as if they were the enemies of these dragonflies in their previous lives? Now, the mantises can only run away when they see these lame dragonflies. In less than a quarter of an hour, the three sisters Susan drove away the dozen flying mantises that hunted the red dragonflies. The red dragonflies were overjoyed to see that Susan's dragonflies helped them drive away the enemies. They gathered around to express their gratitude and begged Susan and the others to stay and protect them and not leave again. Susan was overwhelmed by the enthusiasm of these red dragonflies to stay, and finally had to tactfully agree to stay as long as possible. Next, the red dragonflies invited Susan and her two sisters to camp with them in the grove overnight. Wanting to learn about the lives of these red dragonflies, the three sisters accepted their invitation and followed them into the grove, arriving at a leaf hotel prepared by the red dragonflies for Susan and her sisters, a clump of dense and wide leaves, with many red dragonflies nearby, standing guard for them. The next morning, in the tree hole of a big tree in the grove, Susan was surprised to find a huge wasp nest, with thousands of wasps going in and out of the nest. Some of the wasps went out to catch various small insects, some went to collect sap secreted by the sap tree, and some even went to collect sweet wild fruits and fragrant pollen, which seemed very busy and lively. The three Sioux sisters flew to about 1 meter above the hive out of great curiosity and watched carefully. Suddenly, a large caterpillar fell from a branch onto the hornet's hive, causing panic and chaos among the hornets. Then, under the command of a hornet captain, dozens of hornets began to attack the uninvited guest that fell from the sky at the same time. They swarmed over and used their poisonous stings to sting the caterpillar's body. The caterpillar struggled desperately, but unfortunately, after only 3 minutes, this seemingly huge and strong caterpillar died. Next, a large group of hornets took turns to gnaw on the prey that was delivered to their doorstep. After about half an hour, the huge caterpillar was eaten by hundreds of hornets without leaving any trace. Seeing the wasps in this hive actually take such a fierce and cruel method to resist the invasion of foreign intruders, Susan couldn't help thinking, if they encounter insects with hard armor like scarabs and star beetles, how will these wasps deal with it? It will definitely be a good show. I am really looking forward to it. So should I encourage a scarab beetle or star beetle to break into this wasp hive? Just when Susan was thinking about it, suddenly, God granted his wish. Not long after, a dark red scarab beetle flew from outside and landed on the edge of this wasp hive. Moreover, this beetle crawled into the hive as if there were no other wasps around, and even pushed away the densely packed wasps. The wasps not only did not reject this rash intruder, but also made way for it. They didn't mind its arrival at all, and they almost welcomed it with a line of people. Perhaps the wasps had already suffered enough from attacking hard-shelled insects such as scarabs, so from then on, whenever they encountered such tough guys, they would just ignore them and let them come and go freely without any interference. Seeing this, Susan was stunned. It was simply beyond words. Isn't this the typical bullying the weak and fearing the strong? It seems that whether it is human society or the animal and insect worlds, bullying the weak and fearing the strong has become an irrefutable truth. At about 3 o'clock in the afternoon of that day, Susan and her two sisters found a group of wild bees that specialize in catching flies in a wetland sand pile by the lake. They have rows of hard hairs on their front legs, which will remind you of a broom, a brush or a nail anchor. And like ants, they like to work with their front two legs and support their bodies with their four hind legs. The flycatcher also likes to clean up. It first racks up the sand and then brushes it back. Its movements are so fast that the continuous sand looks like a stream of water flowing 7 or 8 inches away. This flying of sand particles can last for about 5 or 10 minutes. Together with these sand particles, there are also wood chips, rotten leaves and other scraps. The flycatcher removes these garbage one by one with its mouth. This is the purpose of its work. It wants to make the sand in front of its home all light and fine high-grade sand without any coarse and heavy impurities. In this way, when the flycatcher comes back from catching flies for its children, it can easily open a passage and bring the prey into the cave. This cleaning work is always done when it is free. For example, when there is a lot of prey stored, enough for its children to eat for a while, it does not need to go out to forage, so it will take time to clean up the garbage, like an excellent housewife. Susan noticed that when the fly-catching bee was working diligently and conscientiously, it seemed very happy and satisfied. Perhaps this was exactly the joy that a mother feels when she sees her children growing up in the house she built. Chapter 369 Superb Skills. Each flycatcher usually lays only 2 or 3 eggs, and for each of her white eggs, she catches a dead fly. After about 24 hours, the egg will hatch into a small worm under the careful incubation of the flycatcher. The worm grows up by eating the dead flies prepared by the mother. After about 2 or 3 days, the flycatcher larvae will almost finish eating the dead flies. At this time, the mother bee is not far from home. Sometimes she will suck a few mouthfuls of honey from the stamens to satisfy her hunger, and sometimes she will happily sit on the sand under the sun. Obviously, she is guarding her home. The flycatcher will often rake some sand at the door of her home, and then fly away again, and fly back after a while. However, no matter how long she stays outside, she will never forget to estimate how long the food in her hut can last. As a mother, her instincts will tell her when her children's food is almost finished, so she will return to her home. As for her home, it looks the same as other sands from the outside, without obvious holes or any signs, but she knows clearly where her home is. Every time the flycatcher comes back to visit her children, she never forgets to bring back some rich gifts. This time she brought back a big fly. After sending the fly to her underground home, she crawled out again until she was needed to send the third fly. The interval between the two was very short, because the larvae always had a good appetite. If the mother bee was a little lazy, her children would starve. This lasted for more than 10 days. The larvae kept growing and the demand for food was getting bigger and bigger. The mother bee also kept sending food in. Finally, the larvae had grown very fat. The mother redoubled her efforts to find food to feed this child who was always hungry until it was fully grown and no longer needed others to prepare food for it. According to rough estimates, a larva needs to eat as many as 70 or 80 flies during its growth. The larvae of the flycatcher eat the food left by their mother and grow up slowly. After half a month, The larvae began to make cocoons, but there was not enough silk in its body, so it had to mix sand to increase its hardness. The larvae pile up the leftover food in a corner of the hut, first sweep the floor, then build beautiful white silk between the walls, first make a web of silk, and then start the next step. A hammock must be made in the center of the web, and this hammock is like a bag, closed at one end and with a small hole at the other end. The larvae of the flycatcher bee sticks half of its body out of the bed, and uses its mouth to select sand grain by grain. It cannot move grains that are too large, and it is useless if the grains are too small. After selecting the right grains of sand, it picks them up one by one and spreads them evenly around the hammock bag, just like a mason embeds stones into plaster. Until now, one end of the cocoon is still open, and the cocoon must be sealed. Then a hat is woven with silk, just the right size to cover the opening of the cocoon, and grains of sand are embedded in it. At this point, the cocoon can be said to be finished. However, the flycatcher still has to do some repair work in the cocoon, applying a layer of slurry on the wall to prevent its delicate skin from being scratched or rubbed by sand. From then on, the larva can sleep peacefully, and soon it will become an adult flycatcher, just like its mother. Not long after, on the small beach by the lake, Susan found another wild bee, the petite white-striped bee, with a thin waist and a delicate figure. The abdomen is divided into two sections, the lower part is large and the upper part is small, and the middle seems to be connected by a thin line. There is a white belt around the black belly. This is the white-striped bee. The nest of the white-striped bee is built in loose soil that is easy to drill through. On both sides of the path, on the mudflats where the sun shines, the grass grows sparsely, which is the most ideal residence for the white-striped bee. The white-striped bee usually builds a vertical hole in the soil, like a well, with a diameter as thick as a goose feather pipe and about 2 inches deep. The bottom of the hole is an isolated small room, which is used for laying eggs. Like other bees, it uses its front feet as a rake and its mouth as a digging tool. Every 10 minutes or so, Susan saw the white-striped bee appear at the hole, holding some garbage or a grain of sand in its mouth, and it always likes to throw this garbage a few inches away, so as to keep its home and the surrounding environment clean and tidy. When the white-striped bee has completely dug the hole, it will check on this small beach to see if there is any sand that suits its needs. If not, the white-striped bee will look for it nearby until it finds it. What it needs is a flat grain of sand that is slightly larger than its hole entrance. It can cover the whole entrance with this grain of sand to make a door. The next day, the white-striped bee came back from hunting a caterpillar outside, and it calmly opened the door and dragged the prey in. This door looks exactly like any other grain of sand. No one would have thought that there would be food hidden underneath. This is actually the home of a white-striped bee. Only the white-striped bee itself can identify its home. After opening the door and slowly placing the prey at the bottom of the hole, the white-striped bee began to lay eggs on it, and then blocked the hole with the sand it had previously hidden nearby. This sounds a bit like the story of Open Sesame and Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. The food hunted by the white-striped bee is the larvae of a gray moth, most of which live underground. How did the white-striped bee catch it? By chance, Susan happened to see a white-striped bee busy under a bunch of wild chrysanthemums. The white-striped bee dug the soil at the roots of the wild chrysanthemums, pulled out the surrounding grass, and then drilled its head into the loose soil it dug. No mistakes in one poem, one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1619, one book, one forum, one look. Then it hurriedly flew from here to there, looking into every crack, not to build a nest for itself, but to look for food underground, just like a hound looking for a hare in a hole. The gray moth larva noticed a movement above and decided to leave its nest and crawl to the ground to see what was going on. This thought was the end of it. But the white-striped bee had already set up its net and was waiting for it to appear. Sure enough, as soon as the gray moth larva appeared above the ground, the white-striped bee rushed out and grabbed it, then lay on its back and, like a skilled surgeon, slowly stabbed each segment of the caterpillar with its stinger. It stabbed from front to back, one segment at a time, without missing a single one. The skillful movement of the white-striped bee was amazing. I didn't expect that an insect could do such an incredible thing by observation, which shows that it is very familiar with the nervous system of its captive and knows which nerve centers to stab in order to numb the captive's nerves without killing him. This guy is really too smart. I don't know where he learned this complex technology from. Could it be that before he was born, a god gave him this ability? Nature is so amazing. Susan couldn't help but feel deeply moved. Chapter 370, Extremely Smart. How did the white-striped bee deal with the caterpillar? Susan watched the whole process without blinking, and felt it was very exciting. A white-striped bee found a caterpillar on a leaf, and suddenly flew over and bit the caterpillar's neck with its mouth. The caterpillar struggled violently and twisted its body. At this time, the white-striped bee was not in a hurry. It stepped aside to avoid a violent collision, and then stabbed the caterpillar with its stinger at the joint between the head and the first segment, which is the most tender part of the caterpillar's skin. This is the most life-threatening blow, which can make the caterpillar completely under the control of the white-striped bee. Unexpectedly, the white-striped bee suddenly left the caterpillar and lay on the ground, twisting violently, rolling constantly, shaking its feet, and flapping its wings, as if it was struggling to death, but then it suddenly got up, flapped its wings, combed its hair, and returned to the caterpillar alive and well. The scene just now was actually the white-striped bee celebrating its victory, not being injured. Then the wasp grabbed the caterpillar by the back, a little lower than the first time, and began to pierce the second segment of its body with its stinger, still piercing from the bottom, and then piercing from segment to segment. The first 3 segments had legs, then 2 without legs, and then the 4th segment had legs again, but they were not real legs, at best they were just protrusions. There were 9 segments in total, but the caterpillar had already lost much resistance after the first sting of the wasp. Finally, the wasp opened its pliers-like mouth to its maximum width and clamped the caterpillar's head, squeezing it gently and rhythmically, but trying not to hurt it. After each pressure, the wasp would stop and see if the caterpillar would react. This pause, wait, and press were repeated over and over again. This brain control operation cannot be done too violently, otherwise the caterpillar is likely to die. It is strange to say, why doesn't the wasp want it to die? Now, the surgical operation of the white-striped wasp on the caterpillar has been completed. The caterpillar lies on the ground, motionless, almost lifeless, with only a breath left. It allows itself to be dragged into the hole by the white-striped wasp, and it cannot and will not be able to put up the slightest resistance. When the white-striped wasp lays its eggs on it, it is also unable to harm the white-striped wasp larvae growing on it. This is the purpose of the anesthesia work done by the white-striped wasp. It is preparing food for the future baby. After dragging the caterpillar into the hole, it lays an egg on it, and when the larvae hatch from the egg, it can use the caterpillar as food. Imagine what would happen if the caterpillar could still move. As long as it turns around slightly, it can easily crush the eggs of the red-striped wasp. Of course, the caterpillar cannot move, but it cannot die completely, because if it dies, the body will rot quickly and will not be suitable as food for the white-striped wasp larvae. So the wasp uses its stinger to penetrate every nerve center of the caterpillar, making it lose the ability to move, and lingering half-dead, automatically preserving the larvae's future food. Look, how smart and thoughtful the wasp is. However, when you see it dragging its prey home, you will find that it is far more thoughtful than that. It thinks that the caterpillar's head is not injured and its mouth can still move. When it is dragged by the wasp, it can bite the grass on the ground, thus preventing the wasp from dragging it forward, so the wasp has to find a way to paralyze the caterpillar's head. This time it does not use its stinger, because that would kill the caterpillar. It continuously squeezes and rubs the caterpillar's head, which is just the right method. The caterpillar soon loses consciousness and is tormented. In addition to the clever white-striped bees, Susan also discovered another hard-working mining bee, the striped bee, a wild bee with a thin waist. Their sizes vary, with the big ones being bigger than wasps and the small ones being smaller than flies. But they have one common feature, which is that there is a clear groove at the bottom of their abdomens, in which a sting is hidden. When an enemy invades, the sting can move back and forth along the groove to protect itself. The red stripes on the female bees are very beautiful and eye-catching, and their slender abdomens are surrounded by black and brown stripes. Striped bees like to live in groups. Every spring, they come to the hard soil in groups to set up camp. The number of each group varies, and the largest one has almost hundreds of wasps, and this place becomes their base camp. Each striped bee has its own separate room, small nest. No one except itself can enter this room. If any untactful bee wants to break into someone else's room, the owner will give it a sword without hesitation. Therefore, everyone guarded their own home, no one offended anyone, and the small society was filled with a peaceful atmosphere. The interior of each nest was built very smoothly and delicately, and even faint hexagonal marks could be seen, which were the traces left by their last construction. What tools did they use to complete such delicate work? It was their tongues. At this time, dandelions, wild roses, daisies, etc. could be seen everywhere in the wild. In the flowers, there were busy bees, and the striped bees also joined them. After they took nectar and pollen like bees, they returned happily. Once they returned to their own city, they would immediately change their flying mode. They hovered very low, as if they were hesitant about so many caves that looked similar, and they didn't know which one was their real home. But after a while, the striped bees recognized their own marks and quickly and accurately drilled in. Every time the spotted bee comes back from collecting nectar, it will first put its tail into the nest to brush off the pollen, then turn around and drill its head into the nest to sprinkle nectar on the pollen, thus storing the fruits of its labor. Although the nectar and pollen collected each time are very small, after many collections, the nest has become very full. Then the spotted bee starts to make dry food one by one, and begins to prepare food for its future children. The spotted bee rubs the pollen and nectar into pea-sized shapes. The outside is sweet honey, and the inside is full of dry pollen, which is not sweet and has no taste. The nectar outside is the early food of the little bee, and the pollen inside is the food of the little bee in the later stage. No mistake, one poem, one post, one content, 1/6, one book, one bar. Take a look. After the spotted bee finishes making food, it starts to lay eggs. Unlike other bees, it does not seal the nest after laying eggs. It will continue to collect nectar and take care of its babies. The little bees gradually grew up under the careful care and attention of their mother. When they were cocooning and turning into pupae, the spotted bee sealed all the small nests with mud. After it finished this work, it was time to rest. If nothing unexpected happened, in just 2 months, the little bees would be able to play in the flowers like their mother. However, the spotted bee's home was not as comfortable as imagined. There were many vicious robbers lurking around them. Among them was a kind of mosquito, which was insignificant and small, but was their strong enemy. Chapter 371, Substituting One Thing for Another. What does this mosquito look like? Its body is less than 1/5 of an inch long, its eyes are red and black, its face is white, its breastplate is dark silver gray, with 5 rows of tiny black spots and many bristles, its abdomen is gray, and its legs are black, like a vicious and treacherous killer. These mosquitoes can find a hidden place to hide under the sun, and when the spotted bee comes with a lot of pollen, the mosquito will follow it closely, circling and flying. Suddenly, the spotted bee leans over and rushes into its house. Immediately, the mosquito also stops at the entrance of the cave, with its head facing the entrance, and waits for a few seconds without moving. They often face each other like this, only an inch or so away from each other, but they both seem very calm. The spotted bee is a kind elder. If it wants, it is fully capable of knocking down the little robber who destroyed its family at the door. It can bite it to pieces with its mouth and sting it with its sting, but it did not do so and let the little robber lie in ambush there safely. As for the little robber, although there is a powerful opponent in front of it, and the hateful little mosquito knows that the spotted bee can tear it to pieces with just a little effort, it does not show any fear. It is bullying an honest person. Soon, the spotted bee flew away, and the mosquito began to act. It quickly entered the nest, as rude as returning to its own home. Now, it can do whatever it wants in this small nest where a lot of food is stored. Because these nests have not been sealed, the mosquito can calmly choose a nest and lay its eggs in that nest. Before the owner comes back, it is safe and no one will disturb it. When the owner comes back, it has already completed its task and patted its butt and ran away. It will find another hiding place nearby, waiting for the second opportunity to steal. If you look at the pollen balls hidden in the nest of the striped bee, a few weeks later, you will find that these pollen balls have been eaten into a mess. In the small nest where the pollen is hidden, there are several small insects with sharp mouths wriggling. They are the babies of mosquitoes. Among them, sometimes you can also find a few larvae of the striped bee. They should be the real owners of this house, but they are already very thin and hungry. The mosquito robbers' stealing plan succeeded. The greedy invaders deprived them of everything that originally belonged to them. This poor little thing gradually weakened, gradually withered, and finally disappeared completely. The vicious mosquito larvae swallowed the corpse bit by bit. Although the mother of the little bee often came to visit her children, she did not seem to realize that the nest had undergone earth-shaking changes. She never killed these strange larvae, Nor did she throw them out of the door without hesitation. She still thought that her dear little baby was lying in the nest. Then, she carefully sealed the nest, as if her own child was sleeping inside. In fact, there was nothing in the nest at that time. Even the mosquito baby had already taken the opportunity to fly away. What a poor mother. If there were no accidents in the home of the spotted bee, that is, it was not attacked by mosquitoes as I just said, then they should have about 10 sisters. In order to save time and labor, they no longer dug a new tunnel, but just took the old house left by their mother and continued to use it. Everyone went in and out politely from the same door, doing their own work and not disturbing each other. However, at the end of the corridor, they have their own homes, each of which includes a group of small houses, which they dug themselves, but the corridor is shared. When a spotted bee returns from the field after collecting nectar, its legs are covered with pollen. If the door is open at that time, it will immediately dive in. Because it is very busy, it has no free time to wander around the door. Sometimes, several striped bees will arrive at the door at the same time, but the width of the tunnel does not allow two bees to walk side by side, especially when they are all full of pollen. Just a slight touch will cause the pollen to fall to the ground, and half a day's hard work will be wasted. So they set a rule: the one closest to the hole should go in first, and the others will line up and wait in turn. After the first one goes in, the second one will quickly follow, followed by the third, fourth, fifth. Everyone lines up and goes in an orderly manner. Sometimes there will be such a situation: one striped bee is about to come out, and the other is about to go in. In this case, the striped bee that is about to go in will politely step aside and let the striped bee inside come out first. Every striped bee behaves very gracefully and politely in front of its own kind. Once, a striped bee had reached the hole from the corridor and was about to come out. Suddenly, it retreated and gave the corridor to the bee that had just come back from outside. It is really gentle, respectful, frugal and modest. This spirit of mutual assistance is really admirable. With such a spirit, they work very efficiently. If you open your eyes and observe carefully, there are more interesting things than this. When a spotted bee collects pollen from the flower field and returns to the cave entrance, you can see that a valve blocking the cave entrance suddenly falls down, opening a passage. No mistake. When the spotted bee from outside enters, the valve rises up again to block the cave entrance. Similarly, when the spotted bee inside wants to come out, the valve also falls down first, and then rises up again to close after the spotted bee inside flies out. What is this thing that goes up and down like a piston in a syringe? This is a bee, the doorman of this house. It uses its big head to hold up the cave entrance. When the residents of this house want to go in and out, it pulls the bolt, that is, it immediately retreats to the side, where the tunnel is particularly wide and can accommodate two bees. When the other striped bees have passed, this gatekeeper comes up and holds the hole with his head. He stands still and guards the door, so conscientiously. Unless he has to drive away some uninvited guests who don't know what's good for them, he won't leave his post without permission. In fact, this lovely gatekeeper is the same as other striped bees, but his head is very flat, and his clothes are dark black with stripes. The fluff on his body is no longer visible, and the beautiful red-brown pattern he should have is gone. This set of broken clothes seems to explain everything. This striped bee that uses its body to hold the door as an old gatekeeper looks more vicissitudes and older than anyone else. In fact, it is the builder of this house, the mother of the current worker bees, and the grandmother of the current larvae. Just 3 months ago, she was still quite young, and at that time she was working hard to build this house alone. Now she is retired. No, this is not retirement. She will still use her remaining heat of sunset to protect this home with all her strength. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372 Dedicated Gatekeeper. Do you still remember the story of the suspicious little goat? When the big bad wolf said to the little goat outside the door, "Little rabbit, open the door. I want to come in," the little goat would look out from the crack of the door, and then say to the big bad wolf outside the door, "Are you our mother? Please show me your thighs. If your thighs are not white, we will not open the door." The old grandmother was no less vigilant than the little goat. She would say to every visitor, "Show me your black bee feet, otherwise I will not let you in." Only when she recognized that this was a member of her family would she open the door, otherwise she would never let any outsider into her home. Look! An ant walked by the hole. This ant was a bold adventurer. It wanted to know what this place with a scent of honey was like. Get out! The old grandmother spotted bee guard shook her head and cursed. The ant was frightened by her and had to walk away angrily. Fortunately, it left. If it had stayed near the hive, the spotted bee would have left its post and flown over to chase it without mercy. There is another kind of wild bee that is not good at digging tunnels, the woodcutter bee. It looks for tunnels that were dug by humans in the past. The tunnels of spotted bees are perfect for it. The nests of spotted bees that were previously attacked and occupied by mosquitoes have always been empty. Because mosquitoes have wiped out their families, the entire family has fallen into ruin. So the woodcutter bees can naturally occupy the empty nests and make use of the waste. In order to find such empty nests so that they can put the honey pots made of dead leaves, these woodcutter bees often patrol the territory of the spotted bees. Sometimes it seems that it has found its target, but before it can stand firmly, its buzzing has attracted the attention of the guard. The spotted bee guard immediately rushed out of the hole and made a few gestures at the door to tell it that the hole has already had an owner. The sawfly understood what it meant and immediately flew to find a house somewhere else. Sometimes, before the gatekeeper came out, the sawfly could not wait to stick its head in. So the old grandmother, who was the gatekeeper, immediately raised her head to block the passage and gave a not very harsh signal as a warning. The sawfly immediately understood the ownership of the house and left quickly. There is a kind of little thief who is a parasite of the sawfly and sometimes gets punished by the striped bee. This time, Susan saw it being severely punished. This reckless guy did evil things as soon as he smelled the tunnel, thinking that he had entered the home of the sawfly, but soon he immediately found out that he had made a big mistake and that he had broken into the home of the striped bee. Then he met the old grandmother who was guarding the gate, and after being severely punished, he fled in panic. Similarly, other ambitious and stupid guys who want to break into the home of the striped bee will undoubtedly receive the same treatment. Sometimes, the gatekeeper bee would have a dispute with another old grandmother. July and August are the busiest months for the bees. At this time, Susan saw two different bee colonies, old bees and young queen bees. The young queen bees were beautiful and agile, and they hurriedly flew from the flowers to the nest, and from the nest to the flowers without stopping, busy all day long, while the old bees, who had lost their youth and vitality, just wandered from one hive to another, like a homeless vagrant. Who are these vagrants? They are the old bees who lost their families because of the despicable little robbers. When summer came, the old bee finally found that the despicable mosquitoes came out of her nest, and then she suddenly realized and was heartbroken. But it was too late. She had become a homeless old woman, so she had to leave her hometown with grievance and go somewhere else to find another way to make a living, to see which family needed a housekeeper or doorman. But those happy families already had their own grandmothers to take care of everything. And those grandmothers were often hostile to the old spotted bees that came from outside to find work and steal their jobs, and often gave them a rude answer. Indeed, a family only needs one doorman. If two come, it will block the corridor, which is not spacious to begin with. Sometimes, there will really be a fierce fight between two grandmothers. When the wandering old spotted bees stop at the door of another house, the doorkeeper grandmother of this house will guard the door tightly on the one hand, and challenge the old bees from outside with her teeth and claws on the other hand. The winner is often the old lonely bee that is exhausted, sad and weak. What happened to these homeless old lonely bees later? They aged day by day, and their numbers gradually decreased, and finally all disappeared. Some of them were eaten by those gray little lizards, some starved to death, some died of old age, and some died of despair and heart failure. As for the old grandmother who guards the door, she never seems to rest. In the early morning when the weather is still cool, she has already arrived at her post. At noon, when the worker bees are the busiest time to collect honey, many striped bees fly in and out of the cave, and she still guards there. In the afternoon, when it is very hot outside, the worker bees do not go out to collect honey, but stay at home to build new nests. At this time, the old grandmother is still guarding the door. No mistake, one poem, one content, one book. Although there were no mosquitoes, there were many other parasites that might invade the hive. However, the strange thing was that Susan carefully observed the hive every day, but she never found any bee enemies near it. It was so quiet and peaceful all summer, which showed that the thieves knew how powerful the grandmother was, and also showed how vigilant the grandmother was. Susan also found mason bees, a kind of wild bee that was very capable of using the clay from the lake to build houses. It liked to build its home, the hive, in a place that was sheltered from the rain so that its offspring would have a comfortable and warm place to live. After this wild bee built its nest, it filled it with small spiders, food, then laid its eggs in it, and then sealed them all up before leaving reluctantly. They only chose small spiders for another reason, that is, before it put the prey into its nest, it had to kill the spider first. Chapter 373, Charlatan. Wild bees will use the surprise attack method, suddenly landing on the spider, winning by speed. Almost before the wings have time to stop, they will take the little spider away. Once this small spider prey is stored, it will easily go bad. Fortunately, the spider is small and can eat it all in one meal. If it were a larger spider, it would not be able to eat it all in one meal, and it would have to be eaten in several times. Then the spider would definitely rot, and the rotten food would poison other larvae in the nest, which would be bad for the whole family. Usually, they will put the first spider caught at the bottom layer, then put the eggs on it, and then put other spiders on the top. After adopting this method, the little larvae can eat the older dead spiders first, and then eat the fresher ones. In this way, the food stored in the hive will not have time to go bad. It is really a safe and smart method. The eggs of the bees are always placed on a certain part of the spider's body, the end of the bee egg containing the head, close to the fattest part of the spider. In this way, once hatched, the larva can directly eat the softest, most delicious and most nutritious food. Therefore, when it completely eats the spider, there will be nothing left in the pile of spiders. This life of feasting can last for 8 to 10 days. After a good meal, the grub begins to make its cocoon, which is a pure white silk bag, unusual and delicate. In addition, there are some things that can make the silk bag of the larva more solid and can be used for protection. So the grub produces a lacquer-like liquid from its body, which slowly seeps into the mesh of the silk and then gradually hardens to become a very shiny protective lacquer. At this time, the larva will add a hard filling under the cocoon it is making everything very appropriate. Not long after, Susan discovered 2 other wild bees, cotton bees and resin bees. The so-called cotton-picking bee, as the name suggests, is a kind of bee that usually picks cotton from mullein, thistle, and iris. The cotton has long been dehydrated, making it very easy for the bee to pick cotton. The cotton-picking process of the cotton-picking bee is very interesting. It first stops on the dry branches of the cotton plant, tears off the outer skin with its mouth, and after picking enough cotton, it presses the cotton to its chest with its hind legs to form a small ball. When the ball is as big as a pea, it puts the ball in its mouth and flies away with it. If you are patient, you will see the cotton-picking bee return to the same plant again and again to pick cotton until its cotton bag is finished. The situation of the resin-picking bee is completely different. They usually collect some resin and sand to build their own hives, and they are also different in layers and structures. Just when Susan was concentrating on studying wild bees, suddenly, Hot Girl and Sweet Girl both flew over. Hot Girl said, "Sister Susan, why do you study wild bees all day? Aren't you tired of it? It's been almost a month, and you don't seem to have any other hobbies. You know, there's a big commotion outside now. What's going on?" Susan asked in confusion. "Sister, it's like this. A charlatan came to the Leaf Hotel where we live," Sweet Girl interrupted. "Charlatan? What kind of charlatan? Sister, please explain it clearly," Susan asked even more confusedly. "That's right. The kind that deceives people. I can't explain it clearly. So, sister, you should go there in person and take a look, and you will know," Sweet Girl said anxiously with sweat on her forehead. "Okay, then, let's go." As soon as the voice fell, Susan took the 2 sisters and flew straight to the place where they lived for the past month. In a blink of an eye, the Leaf Hotel appeared in front of them. There were many red and white dragonflies hovering in the air in front of the Leaf Hotel. They were all surrounding a large yellow-white dragonfly with black spots flying from nowhere in the middle. The 3 sisters flew over to take a closer look. Wow, what a thing! It turned out that the big black spotted dragonfly was slowly circling around the red dragonfly in the middle that was foolishly hovering in the air. As it was circling, it was chanting something, "Heaven and earth, please help the Lord Lao to show his power. Heaven and earth, please help the gods to come down." Seeing this, Susan hurriedly asked a red dragonfly beside him, "Hey, men, what's going on?" The red dragonfly replied, This black wizard said that she can bless us, exorcise demons, and eliminate disasters. All we have to do is to turn around like this for each of us 3 times. Soon, the big black spotted dragonfly turned around 3 times, and then a white dragonfly came in and did the same. In this way, when the sun set, the big black spotted dragonfly, the black wizard, blessed hundreds of red and white dragonflies, making everyone happy. Naturally, everyone enthusiastically took out a lot of exquisite food, small grasshoppers, small spiders, small moths and flies, and other foods that dragonflies like to eat, to entertain this lucky star who suddenly fell from the sky. All kinds of praises flooded the black spotted dragonfly, as if they wanted to lift it to the sky. No mistake, 1 poem, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar. However, there is no banquet that will not end in the world. When it was very dark, the banquet finally dispersed, and everyone left to go to bed. The black spotted dragonfly naturally stayed at the Leaf Hotel, not far from Susan and her 3 sisters, but in a better and more secluded location. The darkness gradually faded, and the morning light slowly appeared on the horizon. At this time, there was a scream and cry near the Leaf Hotel. Susan and other sisters were awakened, and quickly opened their eyes and looked at the place where the sound came from. They couldn't help but exclaimed, "Isn't that where the black wizard stayed last night? Did something big happen?" Thinking of this, the 3 sisters no longer hesitated and immediately stood up and flew towards that place. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the scene and found that it was already crowded with many red and white dragonflies who came to watch the excitement. Susan hurriedly squeezed in, and while squeezing, she said, "Borrow the light, please make way, let me see, everyone is crowded here, what is going on? Big sister, you must take charge of us and avenge us." Before the voice fell, an older and more experienced red dragonfly burst into tears. "Please explain clearly, what is going on?" Susan still asked a little confused, although she already suspected that this matter must be related to the black spotted dragonfly. The crying old red dragonfly stopped crying, raised his head and said to Susan sadly, "That damn black wizard deceived all of us, killed more than 30 of our brothers and sisters last night and then ran away. In addition, several of our guys are also missing." Chapter 374, A Misunderstanding. Ah, there is such a thing. Susan couldn't help wondering, what does the black spotted dragonfly mean by doing this? She would never do this for no reason. There must be something behind it. What is she trying to do? Susan couldn't help but think about it. But at this moment, the red and white dragonflies around her shouted excitedly, "Revenge for our dead brothers and sisters! Eliminate the black spotted dragonfly!" The voices rang out one after another, continuously. Faced with everyone's eagerness for revenge, Susan had to express her position immediately. "Everyone calm down first, please listen to me, this revenge must be taken. However, now we have to find out, where's the black wizard now? Does she have accomplices?" Seeing that everyone gradually quieted down and listened to her, Susan continued, "In addition, we also need to find out why the black wizard did this." After a pause, she said, "Only after we have figured out these problems can we proceed to the next step." Everyone was silent, and then the old red dragonfly asked, "Then let's all listen to you, big sister. Whatever you tell us to do, we will do it." Susan turned to the hot girl and said, "You led dozens of red and white dragonfly brothers and sisters to investigate the whereabouts of the black wizard. I will be responsible for finding out the reasons and ins and outs of the black wizard's actions." Sweet girl asked anxiously, "Big sister, what about me? What should I do?" After taking a look at the sweet girl, Susan said calmly, "Stay with me for now. I may ask you to do something later." Soon, the 3 dragonfly sisters split into 2 groups and began to thoroughly investigate this strange incident. The hot girl soon lost track of the whereabouts of the black wizard because the black wizard left in the middle of the night when everyone was asleep. It was difficult to find where the black wizard went. Besides, the guy flew away from the air and could not leave any clues on the ground. In addition, there were forests and hills all around, so it was too difficult to track him down. Susan's investigation was not very smooth. Judging from the scene of the black wizard's crime, his methods were very cruel and clean, as if he was an experienced super killer. This case may become a difficult-to-solve headless case. Then, this is not the crux of the problem. The most fatal thing is that Susan suddenly had a very strong premonition in his heart. Perhaps this murder case is a strong signal that a terrible massacre is about to come. Think about it, The current strength of the red and white dragonflies and the black-spotted dragonflies is so different. Although they were killed by the black wizard's sneak attack when they were sleeping at night, it can also be seen from this how well-trained the opponent is. In a real battle, the red and white dragonflies may not be able to resist. No, absolutely not. This situation is absolutely not allowed by Susan. It seems that the current situation is very urgent. It is probably far from enough to rely on Susan and her sisters. This requires improving the combat effectiveness of the red and white dragonflies themselves. This requires an immediate large-scale military training campaign in this group of red and white dragonflies, and the sooner the better. Thinking of this, Susan immediately went to the old red dragonfly and told him his idea of large-scale military training and the ins and outs of it in detail. The old man strongly agreed and firmly supported it. Soon, a large group of young and strong red and white dragonflies joined the large-scale military training campaign. Susan and her sisters taught them personally. The fighting method was of course Susan's tactic of picking up dry and thin branches to beat them. In addition to attack training, Susan and her team also trained the red and white dragonflies in defensive tactics, mainly teaching them any way to hide. Since the red and white dragonflies are relatively short, they are very easy to hide in the leaves, which is also their advantage. In addition, Susan also strengthened the arrangement and configuration of dragonfly sentinels and patrols, especially the arrangement of mobile sentries and secret sentries at night. In short, Susan basically did everything she could think of, just waiting for the enemy to attack. One day in early August, according to the Sentinel's report, more than a dozen black-spotted dragonflies flew to the mountain at a 45-degree angle to the northwest, and they were showing off their power and insolent. After receiving the news, Susan immediately ordered all dragonflies, big and small, to hide in the dense leaves and pay close attention to the invaders. About a few minutes later, more than a dozen black-spotted dragonflies flew into the grove and landed on the leaves of a big tree together. At this time, a large black-spotted dragonfly said, "Our hunting team has been out for more than half a month, but we still haven't found any clues. We're so anxious." Another large black-spotted dragonfly said, "Captain, this guy is really too cunning. There were several times when we found some clues about him, but we let him run away without being careful. It really frustrates us." No mistake, just look at the content of the poem in 1619 book forum. The captain of the black-spotted dragonflies said indignantly, "This guy has committed many evil deeds and has been saddled with countless blood debts. Sooner or later, he will be punished by God for his crimes." Another black-spotted dragonfly also interjected, "Who says it's not true? This guy is too cruel. He kills wherever he goes and can also use sweet words to confuse many people." The captain of the dragonflies couldn't help but lament, "Hey, if he wasn't so powerful and harmful, we wouldn't have been unable to return home and have been chasing him until now." Susan happened to be hiding in the crown of a nearby tree at this time. He heard the conversation of these black-spotted dragonflies clearly, and the more he listened, the more frightened he became. He couldn't help but doubt, this group of black-spotted dragonflies didn't seem like enemies who were going to invade us, but more like a group of police chasing fugitives. It's so strange. Should I go out and ask? Things have to be figured out after all. We can't always guess like this, right? Thinking of this, Susan could no longer stay still. With a swoosh, he emerged from behind the dense leaves and flew to the big tree where the group of black-spotted dragonflies lived. He hovered in the air and then said, "Hey, where are you from and what are you doing here?" The captain of the black-spotted dragonflies was shocked when he saw a laming dragonfly, slightly larger than himself, suddenly fly out from behind the leaves of the crown of the opposite tree. Then, after listening to Susan's questioning, he understood what was going on, so he said, "We are a special police team chasing fugitives. We passed by here and took a temporary rest here. Is there anything wrong with it?" "Oh, so that's the case. Then there's nothing wrong with it." Susan laughed a little, then thought about it and asked, "But, may I ask, is the fugitive you are chasing a guy who looks similar to you, is full of sweet words, is very good at deceiving people, and likes to kill people secretly when others are sleeping? He is a very cruel guy." Chapter 375, Chasing the Fugitive. "You are so right, it's as if you have seen him with your own eyes," Captain Black-Spotted Dragonfly said in surprise. "Wait, have you really seen him?" "I did see him not long ago, and he owes a large blood debt here," Susan said angrily. "We were just about to seek revenge on him. It's a pity that this guy has escaped to somewhere now." "Ah, Is that really the case? Captain Black-Spotted Dragonfly said in surprise and conviction. This guy really appeared here. It seems that we are not on the wrong path. I'm so sorry. At first I thought you were in the same group with him, Su-san said with a blush. After all, you look almost exactly like him, both black-spotted dragonflies. How can they be the same? Captain Black-Spotted Dragonflies couldn't help but said a little angrily. He is a murderer with a lot of blood debts, and we are the criminal police team chasing him. Misunderstanding, misunderstanding, all misunderstanding. Su-san immediately apologized. I express my solemn apologies to you. Then, Su-san turned to the dragonflies hiding in the leaves and said, everyone, come out. This is all a misunderstanding. Don't be afraid. Soon, many red and white dragonflies and Su-san's two sisters flew out from their hiding places one after another, gathered around Su-san, looked at the group of black-spotted dragonflies, and talked about it. The dragonfly detective captain was a little nervous when he saw so many red and white dragonflies around him. Then he smiled and asked Su-san, tell me, what did this guy do here? So Su-san told the dragonfly detective captain everything that happened that day, and the old red dragonfly who stayed beside her also made some supplements. After learning the details, the dragonfly detective captain actually asked Su-san to send some red and white dragonflies to help them catch the dangerous killer fugitive. After thinking about it, Su-san discussed the matter with the old man of the red dragonfly, and finally decided to agree with the proposal of the dragonfly criminal police team leader, forming a search squadron of more than 150 red and white dragonflies led by Su-san's three sisters to cooperate with a black-spotted dragonfly criminal police team to hunt down the fugitive. Then, Su-san told the dragonfly criminal police team leader the result of the discussion. The team leader was very excited and quickly expressed his heartfelt thanks. Finally, after repeated consideration, Su-san discussed with the criminal police team leader and decided to divide the more than 150 red and white dragonflies led by Su-san into 50 action teams, each with 3 red and white dragonflies, and cast a large net to go around dozens of miles to scout and see if they can find any clues about the killer fugitive. 5 days later, an action team finally flew to report that they had found the killer fugitive's traces about 30 miles to the southeast. It turned out that when the action team was scouting nearby, they suddenly heard a dragonfly crying, so they ran to ask. As expected, it was a new crime committed by the killer fugitive. Su-san and the criminal police captain immediately led everyone to rush to the scene, surrounded the area of several thousand square meters nearby, and immediately launched a carpet-style search, but they did not find any trace of the fugitive. Obviously, everyone was too late, and the cunning guy had already escaped. Afterwards, Su-san and the captain decided to expand the search area and conduct a careful search again, which was even more difficult. There were forests, deep grass, and caves in the cracks of rocks everywhere. It was too easy for the killer fugitive to hide, and it was like finding a needle in a haystack for everyone to find a dragonfly in such a complex terrain environment. Seeing that the sun was about to set and night was about to fall, Su-san and the criminal police captain had to decide to withdraw the team and catch moths and mosquitoes on the spot for dinner. After dinner, they all landed on the leaves of a big tree and camped on the spot for the night. To prevent accidents, Su-san also added double sentries at night, and assigned 2 dragonfly patrols in the first and second half of the night, each consisting of 5 red and white dragonflies. After everything was arranged, Su-san squeezed together with a hot girl and other sisters and fell asleep. No words were spoken that night. The next morning, another action team made a new discovery. The 3 of them found that the killer fugitive was leisurely playing with dragonflies on the surface of a small pond in a small valley in the southwest mountain. But when the team sneaked over, the guy disappeared in the weeds near the small pond. So the 3 of them immediately ran back and reported the latest discovery to Su-san and the criminal police captain. Unexpectedly, after hearing the news, Su-san and the team leader had a dispute. The criminal police team leader insisted on leading the troops to rush over and surround him and bring him to justice, but Su-san disagreed. She felt that the guy was deliberately playing a game of hide-and-seek with everyone. If everyone went over to capture him again this time, it would be fruitless and empty-handed like last time. It would be better to adopt the strategy of waiting for the rabbit and let everyone ambush in a favorable place to lure the guy to come and capture him in one fell swoop. In fact, the method Su-san thought of was good, but there were 2 problems. One was where to choose to set up an ambush, and the other was how to lure the other party into the trap. These 2 seemingly simple problems were not simple. It was necessary to understand the other party's thoughts in order to prescribe the right medicine and develop a feasible plan to strive for success. So, at this moment, what was the psychological state of the killer fugitive? This requires thinking about the problem from his perspective and figuring out the corresponding solution. No mistakes in the poem, the content of the poem, the book, the forum, the 6 to 9 book, and the forum. Just when Susan and the criminal police captain were seriously thinking about how to deal with that guy might also be thinking about how to play hide and seek and circle with Susan and others, and the purpose might be to drag down the pursuit team. In fact, the black-spotted dragonfly that was found by Susan's reconnaissance team playing the dragonfly skimming the water game in the low-lying pond recently was not the guy himself, but his new concubine, who laid eggs in the pond because of cohabitation and pregnancy. When Susan's reconnaissance team approached, she was discovered and hid. If Susan and the special police captain rushed to the roundup like last time, they might get something. Even if they couldn't catch the real murderer, they would most likely catch the real murderer's concubine. Unfortunately, Susan was too cautious and missed this opportunity. As the saying goes, too clever is to be fooled. After hearing the concubine say that she was almost discovered, the real murderer was immediately scared and broke out in a cold sweat, and fled with the concubine overnight. After killing more than 30 red and white dragonflies, the killer also tied up and took away several red and white dragonflies as dry food on his escape. The reason why the Black Wizard was addicted to killing the same species, dragonflies, was because he was unsuccessful in the dragonfly society and had serious antisocial mental problems. In addition, he liked to eat dragonflies and had become addicted to them. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.